Thriller Hunting Plan Unlimited Author, Silver Candle Iris Copy, Warm Reminder, Slightly Scary, Hilarious Sand Sculptures, Warm Blood Writing Jao Minjian Wanted Criminal and Lang Ao Resolute Executive. In the year when the hunting plan was restarted, the 3 million players who were selected in each system partition were all facing extinction. Hundreds of terrifying tests in the competition area, one after another proposition, ghosts are rampant, and the Jedi escapes. In the end, 1,000th of the survivors will be free. In the overall chaotic situation, there is such a group of rabble, which is extraordinarily rambunctious and extravagant. It is said that they see ghosts to exorcise ghosts, kill monsters when they see them, and no grass grows wherever they go. Who knew this group of neurotic captains? A blind girl. As a dangerous person on the system's blacklist, Lingchen Mu's blind cane is not a blind cane, but a skull-shattering cane. And her latest goal is to kill the CEO who arrested her. He won't live long, and I will send him to the west with my own hands. Qin Ce held the handcuffs. Try it. This book is also known as Big Brothers Love and Kill Each Other, Friends Online Persuade Fight, That Blind Man, I Persuade You Not to Be Too Arrogant, 101 Types of Backstabbing, The Years When I Was a Desperado in the Drama Squad. Thanks for watching, please subscribe. It was night, the clouds covered the moon, the wind and rain, and an abandoned hospital with a historical appearance constituted a very classic horror movie scene. The incandescent light was dazzling, and there were crowds of people in the hospital hall. Even the pharmacy and registration room, and even the stairs leading to the second and third floors were full of people. Roughly, there were 200 people. The youngest of these people is only 14 or 15 years old, and the oldest is in their 30s. Anyway, they are quite young. Not only that, but they are also dressed in different styles, some are summer and winter, some are modern and some are ancient, and some people come dressed in a suit like interstellar armor. It was raining softly outside, and the conversation inside was noisy. Obviously, everyone couldn't get a clue from chatting, and they were busy and restless. At this moment, the loudspeaker above the head suddenly heard a ding-dong, and then the broadcast rang through the four corners of the hospital. In the broadcast, the mechanical female voice was broadcasting in a strict manner. The hunting plan is restarted, and a total of 3 million outstanding traversers from various systems are welcome to be selected to participate in the game. This game adopts the survival elimination system, and the space competition area is randomly allocated. Each game lasts 5 days, and the competition area is automatically rotated after 5 days. When the survivors are reduced to 1,000th, the game ends. As if a stone stirred up 1,000 waves, the more than 200 traversers present all exploded. What hunting plan? What survival elimination? What did you just say at the end, 1/1000th? Does it mean that 3 million people can only live 3,000? What is this for? Dare I be sent here to die? These are all players who are bound to each system. They have rich experience in their respective fields before, and they have long been familiar with the matter of crossing. The problem is that this time is different. This time it is not just a mission, but an escape game with a very low survival rate. They appeared here inexplicably, without any warning or even a little psychological preparation. Who thought, came up with this, bad idea, I kill him. The person talking was a big brother in his early 30s. He was 1.9 meters tall, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and he wore a very punk motorcycle vest. The muscles on his arms were strong, fierce and powerful. However, the problem of excessive stuttering has weakened his deterrent power by at least 60%. Not only is it not scary, but it is even a little silly. There is a little girl next to her, with beautiful eyebrows, 2 well-behaved braids, wearing a cartoon t-shirt and shorts, sitting in the corner with her knees tucked from beginning to end, shrinking into a small ball, not speaking, very pitiful. The elder brother was very soft-hearted, thinking that the child was frightened, and just wanted to comfort him, but the next second, he saw the girl's almond eyes wide open, slapped her thigh suddenly, and cursed angrily. Fuck it. Use 3 million people as cannon fodder and hunt the fuck. Whoever designed this stupid system, parents can grow back from the coffin with anger, crows dance on his grave, wild dogs pee in his urn, he diluted a cup of PUERT for his son to drink. The girl's loud and penetrating voice was unusually inconsistent with her appearance, so that the eldest brother was startled. Despite his burly appearance, he is actually quite easily frightened. Sister, you, swearing people is quite literary. I've won the prize. The girl's anger still didn't subside, she squinted at him with one hand on her chin. What's your name, brother, which system? Changsu, violent, force block system, just beat people every day. Oh? That's cool. To be honest, I've always wanted to play with this system. After all, the system I'm in is very boring. What system? The love system, the I am the heroine's stepping stone system. I passed through to be a cannon fodder and a supporting actress. I had to do my best to die. In the end, I had to let the hero and heroine kill me personally, and the mission would be considered a success. The girl sighed. It's all making me afraid of love and marriage. Men don't have any fun. No, this is so pessimistic. Changsu tried his best to win respect for some men, and persuaded her by the way, not getting married. It's okay, but love is still, we can talk. The girl glanced at him. Are you in love, brother? I have not. You didn't fall in love yourself, and you instigated others to fall in love. This instruction is very spiritual. Changsu thought to himself that he was busy with gunfights all day long, and he had no time or energy, and no suitable girl was willing to talk to him. If he had the conditions, he would have talked about it long ago. But it's hard to reason with the little girl, and he stammered, and he didn't have the ability to reason with others. So he changed the subject wisely. Sister, what's your name? What's your name? Me? Wu Shizhu. 59. Yes, I'm good at everything, but I'm not very good at everything. It's all 59, which means failing. Changsu was speechless, and it took a long time for him to boast, good name. Where is it? Anything is fine. Then the awkward chat was over, and the two were really speechless, so they shook hands symbolically, counted as the same people from the end of the world. Who knew that after a while, a man's voice was suddenly heard, shouting in a rough voice. Hey, that blind man! I'm calling you! Don't get in the way, understand? Find a place to squat, and your mother thinks it's not crowded enough. Obviously, he was yelling at the girl in black in front. The girl had long hair and a shawl, and wore a pair of brown sunglasses that covered most of her face. Only her blushing soft lips and delicate jaw were exposed, and she could vaguely tell that she was a beauty. The wide knee-length coat complemented her slender figure. She kept her head down, leaning on a silver glowing metal blind cane in her hand, which was thicker and longer than ordinary blind canes. Hearing the other parties urging, she tapped the ground with her blind cane and slowly took 2 steps to the side. The man was very impatient, so he simply stretched out his hand and pushed her, which made her stagger and almost fell. It's dawdling, can you hurry up? He dyed his head with red hair and tattooed a big flower arm. It is estimated that he had mixed it before. The broadcast just now made him extremely annoyed. Since he was annoyed, he instinctively wanted to find the weak to vent his anger. The girl named Wu Shizhu had a violent temper when she saw the injustice. Damn, what's the matter with you? Are you an old man? You are so embarrassed to bully girls. The red-haired man glared, what's the little girl's nosy? I warn you that you are annoying, be careful to beat you together. Okay, give me a try? You have broken your teeth. With his hands behind his back, Chang Su also took 2 steps forward and stood beside Wu Shizhu. The big man and the girl, playing arrogant, really have a face. He is a head taller than the opponent, with a fist the size of a casserole, strong and fierce, and can hold the game very well. The red-haired man was a little cowardly at that moment, and he scolded in a low voice reluctantly, then turned around and walked away, not daring to shout again. The blind woman supported her sunglasses, bowed slightly, and said softly, "Thank you, both of you." Wu Shizhu quickly comforted, "You're fine, little sister, don't be afraid, I will protect you, this eldest brother is also a good person, and he will protect you too." Chang Su nodded, "Yes, I hate bullying the disabled people, the scum." "Thanks. Then what's your name, what's your name?" The blind girl curved her lips, unexpectedly charming, Lingchen Mu. Good name." Wu Shizhu complained, "Have you praised everyone's name when you see them?" Chang Su decided to remain silent. At this time, the hospital broadcast, which had been silent for more than 10 minutes, sounded again. The number of this competition area is 056, the theme zombie invasion, and the number of participants is 5,000. The game will start in 10 minutes. Before the countdown ends, if you successfully clear a competitor's traverser, you can get an additional system reward, the whole city map. 5,000 people, co-authoring the entire city is the real competition area, and this hospital is just one of the strongholds. The dial of the metal watch worn by each player on the scene lights up instantly, and a green prompt box will appear when tapped, including prompts for the number of survivors, remaining time, system rewards, and teammate binding prompts. Someone exclaimed, "Clear competitors? Aren't we all competitors?" Admittedly, this is a stupid question, and a most realistic one. The hospital hall, which was still noisy just now, was silent for a moment. All the players looked at each other. In this not spacious space, they were vigilant and tried their best to keep a safe distance from others. The escape game has not yet started, and the dog system will let them kill each other first. But the conditions are really tempting. Because everyone knows how important it is to have a map in a zombie-themed scene, it is far better than running around like a headless fly, and the chance of survival will be greatly improved. The question is, who to kill? If you want to kill, you have to kill the weakest with the most certainty, and establish yourself in an absolutely invincible position. No one wants to be a stepping stone for others right from the start. Wu Shizhu muttered, "Stupid rules, there is no map without a map, I don't believe it anymore, I'm not a lunatic, can I really find a way?" However, not all players have the same benevolent thoughts as her. Before she could finish her sentence, she heard the screams of 2 girls in succession from the direction of the second floor. At the same time, the number of survivors displayed on the dial is also decreasing in real time. At first, it was 3 million people, but now it has rapidly decreased by more than 300 people, and the death toll is still increasing. There is no doubt that these are the hands of the players moving each other. In order to survive, there are always people who will do anything, and this is normal. Seeing that the countdown continued to shrink, there were only 7 minutes left. In the hospital, more and more players became anxious, especially those who happened to be carrying self-defense tools, and they began to look for targets to attack. Just kill one person anyway, right? There were many people around, all of whom focused their attention on Lingchen Mu, the seemingly weak blind girl, including the red-haired man who had gone and returned. "Why are you staring at me?" After receiving the warning from Chang Su's eyes, the red-haired man dared to raise his voice, "Didn't you see so many people trying to kill her? If you don't want to do it, just stay away and be a hero." Chang Su glared at him, "She is disabled, disabled." Some players retorted, "The disabled should die earlier, otherwise how long do you think she can live in the game? Instead of being bitten to death by zombies, let's give her a good time." Someone immediately echoed, Yes, can you, the old man, stop pretending to be the Virgin of the White Lotus here? With a survival rate of 1 in 1,000, you may not live long, and you still have time to take care of others. They talked openly. Let's kill together, whose reward will be counted if we die in the end. Maybe everyone has done it, and the system can't evaluate it, even if everyone has a reward. I don't know why. Don't look at Wu Shiju's appearance as a cute loli, but she has a heroine complex in her heart, and she has a natural desire to protect the weak, especially the young lady. While she was protecting Ling Chenmu back, she comforted him in a low voice. Don't be afraid, there are still 5 minutes in the countdown, let's try to delay the time. Ling Chenmu leaned on the blind stick in both hands and smiled sideways. Thank you, you are such a good girl. Although there were sunglasses blocking her, Wu Shiju couldn't see her face clearly, but this smile made Wu Shiju a little emotional. Alas, Miss Sister is so beautiful, half of her face is so beautiful, it's a pity to be blind. At this time, I heard the red-haired man who was still haunted, and raised his arms fiercely and shouted, "What the are you talking about? Let's go together, whoever kills is who." This provocative proposal was very effective. Those people pushed Chang Su, who was trying to stop him, to kill not only Ling Chenmu, but also Wu Shiju. In the end, before they could succeed, a loud thunderous noise was heard in the distance, and the door of the hospital collapsed. A group of men in black with a chilling aura, like ghosts, walked in gloomily from the door. They were all wearing black cloaks that fell to the ground, armed with guns, and their faces were hidden in the shadows, making them indistinguishable. And only the young man in the lead was wearing a tailored black uniform with a 4-star embroidered totem on the golden shoulder emblem. He has an extremely handsome face, and his body is thin and tall, like a green bamboo in a cold mountain. The leather boots stomped on the floor of the hospital hall, making a palpitating screeching sound. He walked slowly forward, and the sense of oppression exuding from his body was substantial, causing the players to step back cautiously, and no one dared to act rashly. He patrolled around, and finally stopped in front of Wu Shiju. He pointed to his badge with Tasa engraved on it. Those dark eyes were like a quiet ancient well. He finally opened his mouth, his voice low and hoarse, like a distant echo in a dream. The Time and Space Supervision Bureau, the executive officer Qin Ce, arrests the most wanted criminals on the black list according to the law. Wu Shiju was shocked. Damn, who is the wanted criminal? I am a female cannon fodder in the love system, how can I still be listed on the black list of the system? But she soon woke up and realized that the other party might not be referring to herself. Because Qin Ce's eyes went straight past her and landed behind her. And in the position behind her, stood the gentle and weak blind girl, Miss Ling Chenmu. The author has something to say. Hello everyone, I, Steel Ayin, is back, looking forward to our reunion in a new story. This book is good looking and funny. It is regularly updated at 21 o'clock every night, and it is updated from time to time. Don't fatten up, fattening can easily kill the author, really. Of course, if you don't like it, we will break up peacefully. Please don't write bad comments or negative comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Thanks for watching, please subscribe. TASA is the abbreviation of Time and Space Administration, which means Time and Space Supervision Bureau. At present, all traversal systems that connect parallel worlds are managed by the Time and Space Inspection Bureau. All experienced traversers have heard of this mysterious organization to some extent. The executive officer, together with the information officer, the instructor, and the warden, is called the 4 chiefs of the Bureau. Information officers are responsible for codifying and rewriting procedures, instructors are responsible for cultivating new forces, executive officers are responsible for repression and arrests, and prison directors are responsible for incarceration and trials. There is no doubt that the man named Qin Ce is the executive officer of TASA, and he is indeed in charge of catching wanted criminals. But that's not the problem. The question is, why is he staring at the weak and blind female sister? Wu Shizhu was confused. She even felt that Qin Ci's eyes were too cold, and subconsciously wanted to help Ling Chenmu to block that. Executive Qin, did you make a mistake? This young lady is blind and has no power to hold her back. How could she be a wanted criminal? Qin Ce raised his hand and sorted out his metal watch. His watch was obviously more high-end and luxurious than the player's configuration, and it was enough to show his identity at a glance. He said coldly, "So you're trying to tell me that my space-time tracker is broken?" At this time, Ling Chenmu, who was silent for a long time behind him, suddenly stretched out his hand and patted Wu Shizhu on the shoulder. "Little girl, please let me go." Wu Shizhu reluctantly stepped aside. Ling Chenmu leaned on a blind cane, walked slowly to Qin Ce, and nodded politely as a greeting. She was born with a good voice, and her tone of voice was always very gentle and sweet. But this time, the words he said were not as quiet as before, but had a somewhat condescending meaning. "Executive Qin, right?" She smiled. "What's the matter? What did I do, and why did you come all the way here to arrest people?" Qin Ce lowered his eyes, and already gestured to touch the handcuffs behind his waist. "You killed 18 system guards in the jungle system, and you asked me why I came here." As soon as these words came out, all the players who were not deaf were all shocked. The red-haired man from before was so shocked that he couldn't help but scold him. The dense forest system, ice field system, yellow sand system, storm system, deep sea system, etc., are collectively referred to as polar systems. The environments of these systems are without exception, all of which are extremely harsh and difficult to survive. They are generally used to punish players with criminal records, which is equivalent to time and space. The place designated by the inspectorate to serve the sentence. So what is the concept of killing 18 system guards? For example, it is equivalent to being imprisoned in a heavenly prison in ancient times. She escaped from the prison with one person, and before escaping from the prison, she also killed 18 specially trained Devil Jinyi guards. What a fierce word! Ling Chenmu didn't deny it, just explained it lazily. "I have been law-abiding in the dense forest system for 3 years. As a result, there was a bug in the system recently, and the log cabin I lived in was marked as an illegal building. They demolished it overnight, and the vegetables I planted were also pulled out. They demolished my house, and I wouldn't it be fair to kill them?" Qin Ce's tone was still indifferent. "I won't investigate your criminal motive, go back and let the warden be responsible for it, let's go." With only a click, he threw off the handcuffs, and was about to lock her wrist. Ling Chenmu took a step back and said calmly, "Wait, this hunting plan is about to start. I am also one of the 3 million traversers designated by the system. You are breaking the rules by taking me away. The game hasn't started yet, you are not yet bound to the hunting system, it is regarded as a special case." She stroked the blind stick and thoughtfully, "If I officially execute the game command, will it be automatically bound to the hunting system?" Qin Ce frowned alertly. "What are you doing?" Before he finished speaking, Ling Chenmu's actions were much faster than he imagined. The silver blind stick reflected a cold light under the lamp, quickly separating the distance between him and her. Ling Chenmu listened to the sound to identify the position, and his footsteps turned sharply. The next second, he appeared in front of the red-haired man like lightning. Obviously, the fuck that the red-haired man scolded just now has unfortunately exposed his position. The curvature of the corners of the blushing lips is very lazy and beautiful, but the strength of the move is thunderous. The blind stick pressed against the red-haired man's chest, Ling Chenmu twisted both hands, and the sharp blade ejected from the top instantly penetrated the opponent's heart, and not even a drop of blood flowed. At the moment when the red-haired man opened his eyes and fell straight down, the dial of her watch lit up, and a reminder that the system reward was received appeared on it, a map of the whole city. At the same time, the hospital radio sounded again. The countdown is over and the game begins. Sirens blared. The ceiling of the hospital hall collapsed suddenly, revealing a sky full of thunder and lightning overhead. A large area of icy rain poured down, and with it, there was a mighty force on the roof ready to go. Horror zombies! When the zombies invaded the city, no human being could be alone. The poison is transmitted through blood, and players who are bitten or scratched by zombies will mutate within 10 minutes and continue to attack other players. After 5 days, survivors will be randomly assigned to the next division. The system allows players to be bound to each other, with a limit of 7. The bound players can travel to the same competition area, and the player will be automatically unbound after death. The hospital was completely overrun by zombies. They fell from the roof one after another as if they had been dropped by air. Their bloody, broken bodies were slanted, their faces covered with blue veins and rotten flesh. They bared their sharp teeth and roared in search of prey. Some players who reacted a little late and didn't have time to escape were bitten through the throat on the spot. Even though Wu Shizhu came from the Love Zone, she was actually a seed runner in the 100-meter race. The moment she sensed the danger, she was like a human-shaped slingshot, and she catapulted out. Of course, Big Brother Changsu, who was born in a violent neighborhood, is not slow, and he is 1.9 meters tall, and his one step is as good as a little girl's 3 steps. He quickly caught up with her. No. Fail, you wait, running around, it's dangerous. Wu Shizhu was standing in the heavy rain, drenched like a chicken, but she still heard this sentence. Brother, why do you still call girls nicknames? My name is 59, 59, okay. Changsu humbly apologized, yes. I'm sorry. Oh, let's not talk about this for now. Wu Shizhu waved his hand with a big smile, why, brother, are you willing to act with me? You are not afraid that I will hold you back. Changsu sighed, it's so cute, a girl, just die like this. What a pity to die. I'm pretty cute, but it's not easy to die. Wu Shizhu was speechless, I've been a cannon fodder in the love system for a long time, and I have to be proud of what I say this time. After she finished speaking, she leaned over to pick up a brick, and in the posture of throwing a shot put, she rounded her arms and threw it abruptly in the distance. A zombie that was chasing the player was immediately fired and fell to the ground. She hid behind the tree to cover her figure, no matter how bad I am, I have to survive this first division, and I want to be the protagonist of my own destiny. Changsu couldn't help applauding her impassioned speech, say, well said, then let's bind. Wu Shizhu was surprised, do you really want to bind with me? The system only allows 7 people to bind. You should find more powerful teammates. I don't need to be a good teammate, because I'm very good. Changsu patted his hard chest muscles with a serious expression, if we meet, by fate, I can do my best to protect you. Okay, I get it, this big brother is born with a heroic complex, and has a strong desire to protect the weak. Don't look at people who look like armed thugs, but they are actually soft inside and have a divine aura. So moving. Wu Shizhu was moved when he heard Changsu say again, just now, I ran in a hurry and didn't pay attention to that girl in black, I should call her with me. Brother, do you have any misunderstanding? The corners of her mouth twitched, that young lady surnamed Ling is a wanted criminal on the black list, a ruthless character who dares to shout at the executive officer. People are just Loki, but it's not uncommon for us to protect them. She can't see. It's true that she can't see, but she's more accurate at killing people than anyone else, which means she's awesome, doesn't it? Changsu was about to answer when he heard the heart-piercing screams of a girl behind him. Looking back, he saw a female player fell to the ground, crying and crawling forward, while a festering zombie was biting frantically the flesh on her body. He couldn't see it, and subconsciously took a step forward. Unexpectedly, someone was faster than him. The silver light of the metal blind cane ripped apart the rain curtain, swept sharply, and hit the head of the zombie impartially. The back of the zombie's head was sunken in half, and the zombie slumped on the ground and didn't move. Wu Shizhu saw who the shot was, and was full of surprises. Oh! It's the young lady surnamed Ling. This Kung Fu, this configuration, is like a female version of Kei Zhenyi. When Ling Chenmu heard these words, she followed the sound and turned her head slightly. Little girl is really good at complimenting people. She smiled. If it weren't for the fact that we had a little friendship just now, my stick would almost hit you on the head. Chang Su walked over, tried to pull Ling Chenmu's sleeve, and made an invitation very sincerely. Miss Ling, come, come. Ling Chenmu asked in confusion, happy, anyway, a lot of time. Wu Shizhu supported his forehead, Miss, you are bullying honest people. Brother Chang wants to ask you if you want to be bound with us as teammates, although I know, you are definitely not interested. Can. What? I said yes. Just now, Ling Chenmu cut off the heads of the zombies that passed by. She calmly helped her sunglasses, it's my honor to be teammates with the two of you. Wu Shizhu and Chang Su looked at each other, and they were both surprised and delighted. Excuse me, may I ask why? Ling Chenmu tapped the ground with her blind stick and walked slowly. She raised her hand, intuitively touched the top of Wu Shizhu's head, and rubbed it affectionately. Because you are a kind and honest girl. Wu Shizhu was immersed in the pride of being praised by the boss, and then heard Ling Chenmu say again. The main thing is that I'm blind and I have to find someone to help me read the map. And the teammates will be automatically unbound when they die, and they won't suffer any losses. Play with them. The author has something to say, Wu Shizhu grumpy Lolita Chang Su Holy Father's macho. By the way, 59 said that Sister Orange is the female version of Kei Zhenyi. Kei Zhenyi is the master of Guojing in the Legend of the Condor Heroes. Wu Shizhu felt that she was wrong. She was really wrong. She shouldn't have judged people by their appearance, and regarded Ling Chenmu as a gentle and delicate little white flower. From her thoughts to her methods, the blind female elder sister is definitely the material to be the villain boss. A blind stick is so powerful that the head of the zombie falls to the ground wherever she goes. With Ling Chenmu's permission, she also tried to weigh the opponent's blind stick. Damn, whose blind cane has sunk like this? Is it the dragon subduing Zen staff? Is it the Vajra skull crusher? Miss, you are truly divine. Don't call me little sister. Ling Chenmu said, I'm not too young, I'm already 26. Wu Shizhu thought, although he just turned 20 this year, 26 years old doesn't seem too big, right? But she can understand that, after all, he is a wanted criminal on the black list, and his mental vicissitudes are mature. Sister Orange, it's all right. She changed her words immediately, look at Brother Chang, you're still growing stronger at 35. Chang Su on the side. Chang Su does not have the same knowledge as the little girl. On the one hand, he is not articulate, and on the other hand, because everyone is now a teammate, as a big brother, he must maintain due tolerance. He has always been the most responsible cub in the violent block system. Let's go, where are we going, should we, look at the map. Ling Chenmu patted his metal dial, and a green prompt box popped up. Originally, this prompt box can only be seen by the player himself, but if he is bound to a teammate, he can share it with his teammates. Come on, tell me the surrounding directions. Wu Shizhu carefully identified it and reported in detail. There is a 5-star hotel 3.8 kilometers to the west, and a large supermarket 4.3 kilometers to the east. These two are in completely opposite directions, and they are the two nearest landmark buildings. 5-star, hotel. Chang Su said, we can't, go to sleep. Then go to the supermarket. Ling Chenmu came to a conclusion without hesitation, I just happen to be hungry and need to add sugar. Very good, it turns out that the big guy likes sweets. Wu Shizhu silently made a note in his heart that it is very important to understand the preferences of God's teammates, which will help strengthen their feelings in the future. The short 4 kilometers to the large supermarket must be left in the normal world. Maybe everyone listens to music with headphones in, as a night exercise, and runs there in half an hour at most. But it's different now. It's the zombie invasion subdivision numbered 056 in the most terrifying escape system ever. Every time they took a step, if they were not careful, they would be bitten and pierced. So this road seems to be very long. Wu Shizhu used to be in the love system, full of irritability and passion and nowhere to vent. He could only be aggrieved as a cannon fodder female supporting role, work hard to make a big death, complete the task and continue to go to the next world. At that time, she always thought, when can she experience the stimulation system of fighting and killing? Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, the wish came true, albeit in a somewhat bizarre way. Don't look at her as a cannon fodder with rich experience, in fact, she still has a set of fights. The specific style can refer to the street bad little sister. The guy who didn't know her hand for a while, she picked up a brick, used Chong Su as a walking human shield, and slapped a brick for the zombies that rushed over. Basically, she could succeed 7 or 8 times out of 10 times, and she was very clever. Chong Su always regards protecting vulnerable girls as his duty. Even if he is unarmed, a fist the size of a casserole is enough. Not only can he firmly protect Wu Shizhu behind him, but he can also twist the neck of a zombie with his bare hands. If possible, he didn't even mind protecting Ling Chenmu. But unfortunately, Ling Chenmu didn't mind. The blind stick danced into a hot wheel in Ling Chenmu's hand. With her skillful ability to listen to the sound, she rushed left and right, and her moves fiercely cut a path. Turned out to be blind. A person who can build a house and grow vegetables in a dense forest system and live alone in a harsh environment, where do they need protection from others? The blade that popped out from the top of the blind stick neatly stabbed into the head of the zombie in front of her. She pulled it out with a backhand and kicked the zombie body with one foot. Then she slowly wiped the blood from the tip of the knife with the hem of her coat. "Mr. Chong?" she asked casually, "has the supermarket arrived yet?" "It's here." Chong Su took a step forward, put his hands on her shoulders, and turned her body to the right. "It's right here." "Okay." She readily agreed, turned to the blind stick, and walked slowly up the steps. It seemed that she had become that weak blind girl again. Wu Shizhu sighed with emotion. "You said, why does she act so like? It's like the real thing." Who knows? The door of the large supermarket was locked from the inside by the player who arrived first. Compared with other places, this place has not been completely captured by zombies, so many people have gathered one after another, all wanting to go in for temporary shelter and replenish some supplies by the way. But those players in the supermarket, who wanted to protect themselves, refused to open the door. Wu Shizhu shouted at the top of his voice, "This is the first competition area, what the hell? You can help each other a little longer, and the cruel days are still to come." But no one listened to her, and the people inside were whispering through a door, obviously a fluke that had nothing to do with them. The surrounding players tried to force their way, but at the beginning of the game, there were not many real weapons, and the bricks couldn't help the tempered glass door, and it was useless for a long time. At first, Ling Chenmu just stood quietly on the side, but then gradually ran out of patience and asked with a frown, "Isn't it broken yet?" There was a player in front of him who was violent, and immediately turned his head and glared at her. "I can't see it if I break it or not." "I'm so sorry, I really can't see." Blind people have the consciousness of a blind person. It's good to be alive, and beep 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 at this ready-made one. Chong Su quickly waved his hand. "Brother, you should stop, don't say anything. If you say a few more words, you may end up just like the red-haired man before." Before the zombies came, he sacrificed himself. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Ling Chenmu raise the scepter in his hand. "Oh no, it's a blind scepter," and began to look for the right angle. She gestured with both hands and asked Wu Shizhu calmly, "The door is here, right?" Wu Shizhu nodded, "Yes, 5 meters in front of you, someone is blocking you." "Okay." This good word is a precursor to Ling Chenmu's shot. The next second, the blind cane was thrown high by her. The moment she turned her palm and hit the bottom of the blind cane, the internal mechanism was activated, and the blind cane was stretched by half a meter again, even exceeding her height. She turned around on the spot, jumped up on her toes, raised her blind stick with both hands, and made a violent noise, hitting the upper left corner of the supermarket door exactly, and immediately changed direction when she landed, hitting the lower right corner. The tempered glass is firm in the center and fragile at the 4 corners, not to mention her thunderous strength. Thread-like cracks appeared on the glass, and she smashed the entire door with a backhanded stick on the spot. The players inside panicked, and the players outside cheered. The male player who was rude just now muttered in disbelief, "I'll go, now the blind are so powerful." It's a pity that Ling Chenmu's ears were sharp and he heard it clearly. The blind cane that had just been put away was slightly tilted, and it was straight on his neck. She twisted her hands, and the blade that popped out was so cool that she almost cut his carotid artery. She hooked her lips and smiled, "Sir, be more polite to the disabled in the future, lest you die without knowing how you died." The male player was stunned for a while, then he felt the bloodstains drawn on the side of his neck, and broke out in a cold sweat. Given that the main entrance of the supermarket was destroyed, it was no use to avoid the limelight in it. What everyone had to do was to replenish some supplies before the zombie army attacked. Wu Shizhu didn't know where to get a backpack, and the wind was sweeping the shelves. Ling Chenmu held her blind stick and stood in front of the shelf thoughtfully. "Unqualified kid. Sister Orange, my name is 59. Okay, 59. Ling Chenmu was kind, "Can you tell me where the lollipop is? It turns out that the big guy's preferences are so cute, it's really contrasting." Wu Shizhu pointed forward with a complicated expression, "Around the shelf in front of you, it's on the 2nd floor from the bottom." Ling Chenmu's steps were light and steady, and she immediately circled to the other side of the shelf, gropingly squatted down, trying to get 2 bags of lollipops from the 2nd floor. As a result, the sugar was not touched, but a hand was touched. A slightly cool hand that seemed to be a man's. Before she had time to retract her hand, her wrist was already clasped by the opponent and she almost fell. But her reaction speed is also top-notch, with her left hand on the ground to stabilize her figure, and her right hand has already swung the blind stick. The two made more than a dozen moves in an instant, and they fought more and more vigorously, and then the shelf collapsed, banging against the opposite wall with a loud bang. Wu Shizhu and Changsu over there thought something happened and hurried over. Wu Shizhu was shocked when he saw who was coming. "Executive Qin? You haven't left yet." When she was in the hospital, everyone was busy running for their lives. Later, she met Ling Chenmu again, subconsciously thinking that Qin Ce had already returned to the Time and Space Supervision Bureau. Qin Ce stood on the spot, supporting the fallen shelf with one hand, with a grim expression, probably a little bit of contempt for such a stupid question of hers. "Why, do I still need to report to you if I'm leaving?" You don't have to, you are free to come and go, you are free." "So it's Executive Qin." Ling Chenmu smiled. "When I go to the supermarket, I have to pick up a bag of lollipops to take away. It's so naive and sweet, it doesn't quite match your iron-blooded character. It's embarrassing. Wanted criminals love candy, and there is nothing to be proud of." Qin Ce snorted coldly and pushed the shelf back. The atmosphere was awkward for a while. The current situation is that the men in black from the Time and Space Supervision Bureau are gone, and only Qin Ce is left here. However, due to the particularity of the hunting plan, Ling Chenmu, as one of the officially bound players, cannot be taken out of the system until the end of the game, so he cannot catch her. So everyone standing here, can only stare with big eyes, and can't take any practical action. Ling Chenmue carried the 2 bags of lollipops she just took, and fell into deep thought. She suddenly hooked her fingers at Wu Shizhu, and when Wu Shizhu approached, she lowered her voice and asked, "Is this Qin guy good looking?" Pure curiosity. Wu Shizhu was stunned. "Sister Orange, do you want to hear the truth or the lie? I feel like you're talking nonsense." "Okay." Wu Shizhu couldn't provoke the eldest sister, so he had to answer honestly, "It stands to reason that I stand on your side, and I should criticize the executive Qin for being an ugly big pig, but considering the suspicion of cheating, I still have to obey my conscience. 1 in 1,000, wide shoulders, narrow waist, long legs, and temperament, the iceberg is abstinent and handsome, he is absolutely amazing but unfortunately not my type, I like cheerful and enthusiastic types." When Changsu next to him heard the words, he couldn't help stammering and complaining, I didn't ask you, the criteria for choosing a mate. You take care of me. I'll just talk about it, isn't it allowed? A girl's feelings are always poems, you know. Then you too, 2 hours ago, you said that you don't want to be in love. Theoretically, men don't have a good thing, but there is no chance that one day they will encounter a fish that slips through the net. What's wrong with me preparing with both hands? Changsu sighed, you're right, I'm wrong. He is really a kind and tolerant brother. Hearing Ling Chenmue say meaningfully, really? He's a handsome guy? Then I have to touch it. She really said touch, after all, she can't see, she can only rely on touch. I only touched my hand just now, but I really didn't feel it. Then, before Changsu and Wu Shizhu could stop her, she stretched out her hand and accurately pressed Qin Ci's chest muscles through her uniform. Yo, you're in really good shape. Qin Ci frowned, with a cold murderous look on her face that wanted to rectify the law on the spot, and instantly pushed her hand away. According to his strength, if he wanted to put it on an ordinary person, he would have to be pushed, but Ling Chenmue stood there and didn't move at all, but she tilted her head slightly and her sunglasses were accidentally knocked off. I only heard the crisp sound of slap all my life, and the sunglasses fell to the ground and shattered. So when she looked up, her whole face was exposed to everyone's sight. Wu Shizhu covered his mouth in amazement on the spot, and even Changsu gave a heartfelt "Oh! Miss Ling, you are me, in the system, the most, best-looking female player I've ever seen. He doesn't like to lie, and it's no politeness or compliment. I only looked at the lower half of Ling Chenmue's face before, and I can already taste it a little delicate and charming. Now I see her eyebrows, which are even more brilliant and beautiful. She has a pair of long and narrow fox eyes, the ends of the eyes are light and upward, and the tear mole at the corner of her eye is like a star, born just right. It's a pity that she is blind, and her eyes are dull, like a hazy fog, otherwise, with these eyes, a glance and a smile will definitely be enough to charm all beings." Qin Ci lowered his eyes slightly and stared at her for a while, then turned his eyes away calmly. He said coldly, "You'd better not go too far. Which one of us is more extreme?" Ling Chenmue closed her eyes and asked in displeasure, "You dropped my sunglasses, you didn't apologize, you didn't mean to compensate me for the loss, you're still putting on airs. The Time and Space Supervision Bureau didn't teach me. Have you ever talked about 5 and 4 beauties? Sister, the Time and Space Supervision Bureau doesn't teach this." Wu Shizhu walked over in small steps, trying to smooth things out. "Don't be angry, isn't it just a pair of sunglasses? Let's buy new ones later. My eyes hurt badly when I see the light. I'm not used to it without sunglasses." After speaking, Ling Chenmue took a shot and pulled the decorative tie off Qin Ci's uniform. "You will pay me a new one. Before the sunglasses, I borrowed this tie." She tied the tie in front of her eyes, tied a bow and streamer behind her head, very blind chivalrous style. For Qin Ci, this was undoubtedly a facetious provocation. He couldn't bear it any longer, and immediately took off the handcuffs from behind his waist, and threw them away with a pop, obviously to torture her. Ling Chenmu was naturally not easy to provoke. Not only did he not dodge, he also scrambled to grab it. The two had not stopped for a few minutes before a second fight broke out. The zombies have not yet been cleared, and the big bosses have been fighting infightingly. Wu Shizhu slammed Changsu with his elbow. "Brother Chang, you are not afraid of being beaten, why don't you try to persuade him to fight?" Changsu wondered, "How come I'm not afraid of being beaten? Even if I get beaten, and it hurts. For the sake of unity and peace. The two of them are in full swing here, and it's not us who are unlucky when the zombies come later." Changsu felt that her words made some sense, so he scratched his head and took firm steps, intending to sacrifice himself to persuade him. He chose his words carefully. Two, if you have something to say it well, don't be so mad and angry. Click. The answer to him was a crisp metal interlocking sound. At the same time, Ling Chenmu and Qin Ce suddenly stopped. The two bowed their heads subconsciously. To say that the quality of the things distributed by the Time and Space Supervision Bureau is good, how can it be handcuffed without being careful? And it was Ling Chenmu's left hand and Qin Ce's right hand. Ling Chenmu, Qin Ce, Wu Shizhu and Changsu. He, coincidence. The author has something to say. As a digression, the heroines of each of my hot-blooded essays must have colors in their names. Friends who didn't leave a message, remember to comment, and tonight we'll still draw sweet-mouthed lucky viewers and randomly send red envelopes. I'm so flattered. How did the handcuffs lock, and how did they lock the two together? This question is about metaphysics, and Ling Chenmu cannot explain it. Anyway, she is very angry now. Yu Qi became even more angry when she learned that the key to the handcuffs was with the man in black and not with Qin Ce. Executive Qin, will carrying an extra key exhaust you? Qin Ce glanced at her coldly. It's to completely eliminate the possibility of a thug like you stealing the key. Oh, Executive Qin is really thoughtful, so what about the men in black under your command? Could you trouble them to come back and deliver the keys first? They're back at headquarters. Then why don't you go back together, just to get a bag of lollipops and play handcuffs with me by the way? System bugs are out of my control. Qin Ce threw his arm vigorously, and the handcuffs made a crisp sound with his movements. He was obviously very upset. Otherwise, do you think I am willing to waste time with you? Ling Chenmu slapped the ground with his blind stick. What's the use of talking nonsense, Executive Qin? Would you like to promote your selfless spirit and let me saw off your right hand, so that we can both regain our freedom? He was silent for a moment, narrowing his eyes dangerously. It's better to saw your left hand. Changsu was anxiously beside him. Where is this hand? How can, just saw it. Two people, let's not discuss the question of who is going to cut it first, okay? A certain eldest brother is not articulate and his brain is not too flexible, so the burden of doing ideological work falls on Wu Shizhu's shoulders. After a while, the zombies will chase after us. We should let go of our personal grudges and common enemies first, lest we become cannon fodder at the beginning of the game. As if to prove the accuracy of her crow's mouth, within 2 seconds, familiar roars and exclamations came from outside the supermarket. There is no doubt that the zombies are coming, and this area will be captured in minutes. The door of the supermarket has been destroyed, and it can't even stop it. Ling Chenmu took the blind stick and was about to go to the right. Just as Qin Ce was about to go to the left, the handcuffs were instantly stretched, and the two hissed at the same time. As soon as Qin Ce opened his mouth, his tone was like flying snow in the cold winter, and there was a cool feeling in the crevices of the bones. If you are blind, learn to restrain yourself. What's the matter? Executive Qin looks down on blind people. Ling Chenmu sneered, don't look at me blind, but my mouth is damaged. Not only is my mouth damaged, but my heart is also dirty, and I'm more ruthless in real combat. You may not be better than me, live long. I hope you can maintain this toughness when you go to the headquarters prison in the future. The premise is that you can go back alive to see me blow up your prison with your own eyes. Ancestors. Wu Shizhu jumped in a hurry. It doesn't matter whether the prison is bombed or not, it's not a top priority. Please take 2 steps out first. Can we find a safe place to continue arguing? Having said that, she and Changsu were not idle, and while they persuaded them, they stuffed things into their backpacks. Changsu also took the time to find 2 shiny kitchen knives for her and insisted that she take them. 4. Self-defense, if you see a zombie, just chop it up. Wu Shizhu held a knife in one hand, embarrassed for a while, and nodded reluctantly. Okay, thank you Brother Chang. Then the 2 of them turned around again and found that Qin Ce and Ling Chenmu had already gone far, and they were about to go downstairs. Can there be a little bit of a collective consciousness? The supermarket is at most a material replenishment station. It cannot be used as a hiding place. The sudden attack of zombies is like pouring a ladle of hot water into a boiling oil pan, and the field explodes, forcing the players inside to flee frantically again. Players who ran a little slower could not keep up with their combat power. They were knocked down by the zombies who were chasing after them before escaping too far. Then a large number of zombies rushed up and ate them. For a while, the sound of flesh and blood tearing could be heard incessantly. That scene was horrific. And most of the players are unarmed at present, and they can only copy what they can use for self-defense: clothes hangers, skateboards, frying pans. Some people even have electric vacuum cleaners whose labels have not been torn off, and they don't know who to suck. In contrast, players who initially carry weapons independently appear to be very standout and handy. One of the seed players is Ling Chenmu. Don't look at Ling Chenmu's left hand being chained, in fact, it didn't affect her performance at all. With her right hand, she still swung the Vajra blind cane into a rage. She walked down the stairs and swung it all the way. Later, he almost hit Qin Ce on the head next to him several times. On purpose, of course. When she repeated this action for the 7th and 8th time, Qin Ce finally raised his hand and firmly grasped the top of her blind cane. At that time, the blind stick was only 2 inches away from his forehead. He glanced sideways. Is it finished? You said it too, I'm blind. Ling Chenmu said in a persuasive tone, it's understandable for me to fight so hard against zombies, but it's understandable that I occasionally slip my hands, but it's you, watching 2 Qingxian next to me, with a weird yin and yang feeling. Seeing that you are in high spirits, I am afraid that it will affect your performance alone. If you are lazy, you will be lazy. If you dare, you will not dare. The Time and Space Supervision Bureau has raised an embroidered pillow like you. It's a set of quibbles. Qin Ce sneered. He pulled out the gun from his waist with his backhand, and loaded it neatly on the spot. Holding a gun in his left hand, he aimed at a zombie rushing towards her behind, and pulled the trigger decisively. A headshot. The recoil of his pistol was extremely strong, and Ling Chenmu felt that his arm was shaken. She put away her blind cane and let him drag her forward. The gunshots kept coming from her ears, and her eardrums buzzed a little. This is cheating. She thought, everyone uses primitive weapons, even the pans are on the pan, so if he has a gun, is he still a person? As a result, before she could complain, the gunshots stopped. Yo, what's the matter, Executive Qin, there's no more bullets. She said leisurely, next time you come to the system for inspection, remember to bring a box of arms to avoid embarrassment. Qin Ce said, do you think I only have a gun? He threw away the empty gun at will, and pulled out a slender stick from behind his waist. The stick was dark and shiny with golden patterns engraved on it. With his wrists hard, the swinging stick suddenly stretched, and it shattered the head of a zombie. He turned his head to dodge flexibly, so the thick and smelly brains and blood of the zombies all splashed on Ling Chenmu's body, without any harm. Ling Chenmu. With a blank face, she pulled at the collar of his uniform and began to wipe her face. Qin Ce patted her hand away indifferently. Self-respect. I'm not self-respecting. You first dropped my sunglasses and then ruined my clothes. Who are we the less self-respecting? The roar of the zombie was close at hand. Ling Cheng turned his head slightly, and stabbed the blind stick from behind at an extremely tricky angle. The blade popped out, and accurately inserted into the zombie's forehead. She retracted the knife and rubbed the blood on the blind stick on Qin Ce's clothes. Revenge is the life principle she has always adhered to. Not far away, Wu Shishu raised 2 kitchen knives and slashed randomly. With the help of Chang Su, he just chopped off the head of a zombie. When she turned around, she saw that the 2 bosses were competing with each other, and the murderous aura spread hundreds of meters in a radius, and anyone had to shiver. She sighed, if it weren't for being held captive and encountering zombies again, I guess these 2 ancestors would be torn apart today. Chang Su also had a headache. They are like policemen, police and bandits, how could they be pleasing to each other? After all, I have to thank the pair of handcuffs for making the police and bandits forcibly unite. In this way, after cutting down dozens of zombies, the 4 of them took a path, past the staff passage of the supermarket, and ran out through the back door. Compared to the rest of the other 3, Wu Shizhu obviously couldn't keep up with his physical strength. Sister Orange. Where are we going next? Look at the map. Ling Chenmu immediately handed over the left hand wearing the metal watch. See for yourself. Who knew that she forgot that her left hand was still tied with Qin Ce's right hand, which was a lot of strength, and Qin Ce was unprepared, and she was just pulled over by her. The 2 staggered at the same time and almost collided. Qin Ce reacted quickly, and immediately raised his hand and pressed her shoulder, pushing her away from him. He said solemnly, I hope you can have the consciousness to keep your distance. Ling Chenmu spoke the most yin and yang strange words with the gentlest voice. What are you talking about, Executive Qin? Let's fight together. I'm at a disadvantage, right? You took advantage of other girls, so what are you selling here? Qin Ce glanced at her coldly, are you a girl? I'm not, are you? Chang Su hurriedly rounded up the situation, stop arguing, it's all. Wu Shizhu was speechless, jumping up decisively and covering his mouth, Brother Chang, if you can't keep up with your IQ, stop talking. The author has something to say. This book is positioned as a funny martial arts film. Sister Orange and the executive are in charge of martial arts, while 59 and Brother Chang are in charge of funny. If you feel that the number of words today is a little short, it doesn't matter, I will add 4,000 words tomorrow. There was a small hot pot restaurant not far from the supermarket, and the door was unlocked, so the group of 4 who were forced to form an alliance without a soul hid in collectively. Ling Chenmu drooped her arms lazily. Wu Shizhu didn't dare to instruct her old man to raise her hand, she could only tilt her neck and look at the map diligently. 8.2 kilometers to the north is a steel factory. It is relatively close to here, and you can walk there. Chang Su said, I have to find a way to find a car, and keep going like this. It is estimated that the sky is. It's almost dawn. They have to stay in this competition area for 5 days, and it is unrealistic to always rely on walking. Even if they are refreshed, they will be tired sooner or later. At this time, Ling Chenmu opened his mouth. The steel factory is good. I just found a guy to open the handcuffs first, and then kill the owner of the handcuffs. Wu Shizhu's eyes flickered, and his heart trembled when he heard it. Sister, Executive Qin is sitting here, please restrain yourself a little. Ling Chenmu wondered, why, if I don't tell him, I don't know that I want to kill him? Does he not even have this common sense? Chang Su is really pitiful. As the most fierce person in the team, he has the best temper and has to act as a peacemaker at any time. He tentatively patted Qin Ce on the shoulder. Don't be angry, she was just kidding. Qin Ce sat on the edge of the bed, his face sinking like water, and his tone was indifferent. It's okay, I agree with her. What? Unscrupulous thugs will die sooner or later. Changsu silently lowered his head. In fact, Wu Shizhu is essentially a talker, but in the face of such a situation, the talker just wants to keep silent. The four of them sat still, obviously planning to rest their feet before leaving. Who would have guessed that they had just been sitting for 2 minutes when they heard a frantic slamming on the door outside? When Wu Shizhu turned around, he realized that the newspaper he had pasted with water had dropped. Several players saw the situation inside through the gaps in the glass door, and wanted to temporarily take refuge in the hot pot restaurant. She couldn't help but hesitate. Sister Orange, do you want to open the door? Open it if you like. Ling Chenmu had no interest in this, just be careful not to bite you. Changsu was soft-hearted, not seeing a group of big living being bitten to death, walked over and opened the door. Quick, fast forward, don't attract the zombies. The few players outside rushed in, and behind them happened to be followed by a chasing zombie. Their screams were louder than the roar of the zombies. The last male player was probably afraid that the zombies would bite him. I don't know if it was out of an irrational desire to survive or out of bad humanity. He immediately grabbed Wu Shizhu's collar and wanted to throw her out as a bait. Wu Shizhu was still holding the door for this group of people, but was caught off guard by his sneak attack, but fortunately, Changsu responded quickly at the critical moment, and dragged her back to the place with the collar. The door of the hot pot restaurant was closed again, and the zombie just threw itself on the door, hitting the glass with its head desperately, and the glass was covered with blood. Changsu blocked the glass again with newspaper. Wu Shizhu realized what had happened just now, and an evil fire rushed over her head. She gritted her teeth and pushed the male player. Fuck, aren't you human? We kindly let you in, but you want to kill me. Some people, who are cowardly in the face of danger, strike hard in front of the weak, such as this male player. Provided that he subjectively regarded Wu Shizhu as a weakling. Then are you dead? Aren't you dead? He was righteous, and even provocatively continued to push and shove Wu Shizhu. You are willing to open the door, but I didn't ask you to open it, don't force me here. Nagging. Wu Shizhu was furious. Then do you have the guts to get out? Get out? If you want to get out, it's you who get out. Come on, be careful that I will throw you out the door. Changsu got angry, and decisively twisted his arm and slammed it back. Be respectful, people are so vicious, vicious, just now I need to take care of, all of you. You let me loose. The two sides were so competitive, and the few people who were still watching the fun all gathered around. This group of people is obviously a group. Maybe they formed a group to cross in the early stage, or maybe they formed an alliance and bound in the later stage. In short, because of the large number of people, they started to clamor when the crisis passed. If you're a big fool and stammering, don't pretend to be the light of justice here. The female player who spoke had her hair covered in dreadlocks. It was estimated that she was the girlfriend of the male player just now. I advise you two to be honest and avoid this wave of zombies, otherwise don't blame us for bullying more people than others. Wu Shizhu was stunned by her self-confidence. How many of you? Where can you go? 7-2, do you think the two of you have a chance of winning? The rest of the people also laughed out loud, with the faces of the villains. They only thought that Changsu and Wu Shizhu were in the same team. They never thought that Ling Chenmu and Qin Si, who were sitting in the corner, would also be included. Besides, Ling Chenmu was blind, so they didn't take it seriously. At first glance, it seems like a good chance. Ling Chenmu was holding an orange lollipop that she had just brought from the supermarket not long ago. After listening to it for a long time, her patience gradually ran out. She frowned and said, "What nonsense? They are all blasted out. Anyway, there are many of them, so it's just right to besiege the zombies. What's the matter with you, you bastard? The dreadlocked female player has a bad temper and is not forgiving. Didn't you see what's going on the field? Oh yes, you're blind, you can't see, then just sit there and keep your mouth shut, we might allow you to live a little longer. Wu Shizhu. Yes, this eldest sister wants to kill herself, and no one can stop it. Sure enough, when Ling Chenmu heard the words, she was about to stand up with her blind cane, but Qin Ce was attached to the other side of the handcuffs. Qin Ce sat calmly on the spot and didn't move, so she got stuck halfway through. Excuse me, Executive Qin, are you glued to the chair? Qin Ce closed his eyes and rested. You are annoying. There was a group of people laughing, and the dreadlocks female player mocked yin and yang. Yo, I read that right. Is this a game of uniform temptation and handcuffs? Are you afraid that you won't die fast enough? Before she finished speaking, the blind stick in Ling Chenmu's hand suddenly stretched out, and it roared out with her movements, hitting the opponent's lower abdomen right away. The force of this blow was so ruthless that the female player was knocked upside down and flew out on the spot, and knocked down a table along the way. When she landed, she almost fainted, and even the corners of her mouth were bleeding. Ling Chenmu calmly tidied up his collar and sat back in his seat. The mouth is too much to donate to those in need, such as this Mr. Chang. Chang Su. Why is it always him who is lying on the gun? When the male player saw that his girlfriend was beaten, he couldn't help but get angry. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to rush up to beat Ling Chenmu. Ling Chenmu moved the chair, turned around quickly, and deliberately let Qin Ce out. After all, the two of them belonged to a relationship of prosperity and loss, and she could not let him sit there and enjoy leisure. Seeing that the opponent's fist was about to greet him, Qin Ce raised his eyes indifferently, and suddenly grabbed the male player's wrist with a backhand, twisting and pushing. Click! It sounded like a broken wrist. The male player clutched his wrist and roared loudly, "Beat him! Beat him to death!" Then the remaining players, who perfectly exemplified the essence of the gourd baby saving grandpa and giving away the heads one by one, rushed up to avenge the brothers, but no one could fight. The one in the lead was directly kicked by Qin Ce, kicked out a few meters away, and couldn't get up on the ground. Wu Shizhu exclaimed beside him, "Don't say it, Executive Qin's leather boots have long legs, and they look good when kicked." After she finished speaking, she picked up the glass on the side table and smashed it on the head of a female player. Bah, a bunch of wit-eyed wolves. Chang So carried the male player at the beginning with one hand, and greeted the opponent's face with a fist the size of a casserole, hitting the opponent's nosebleeds. Ingratitude, and bullying the little girl. To say that this group of people is also unlucky and strayed into the den of bandits, but in the final analysis, they killed themselves, and they are not worthy of sympathy. For example, the scene is like this, and there are still people scolding and swearing, for fear that the group will not be destroyed fast enough. Ling Chenmu got up and tried to use the blind stick to pull the wailing player to the side, but found that the player couldn't move, so he simply stepped on it. "Come on, go out and find a car, the air is not good here." Wu Shizhu followed her and asked humbly for advice, "Sister Cheng, is the door of the hot pot restaurant still closed?" Just as Ling Chenmu walked to the door, she turned her head to the side when she heard the words, and asked back in confusion. "I'm a blind and narrow-minded blind man, do I still have the obligation to close the store for them?" After she finished speaking, she swung the blind stick in her hand, and immediately smashed the glass of the door of the hot pot restaurant. Of course, it was the glass on Qin Ce's side. The glass ballast seemed to be raining, but Qin Ce was not to be provoked. He turned around in an instant and smashed the glass on Ling Chenmu's side. The two competed in secret, each blocking the broken glass with one hand, pushing me and pushing you with the other hand, moving forward in a roundabout way, and those who didn't know it thought they were dancing a waltz. Wu Shizhu and Chang So followed closely and glanced not far away before leaving. "Yo, there are zombies here." The target of the zombie was originally the two of them, but when it arrived, Chang Su threw it into the hot pot restaurant with his neck strangled. After a while, the screams of the players came one after another. "It's not my fault." Chang Su sighed, "They are too bad." Wu Shizhu said, "I don't blame you, I don't blame you, what do you blame? We are kind enough to help them, and they turn their backs on their revenge, so why bother with them? There is no virgin in the escape game. And I am not a virgin. Then let's. Now, where are we going? Looking for a car, didn't we just discuss it? Oh yes, I forgot." Wu Shizhu's eyes were sharp, he searched the surroundings, and with good luck, he found the target very quickly. Isn't that, Sister Orange, Executive Chin? A bus is coming towards us." The bus was full of players who were temporarily accompanied, and the driver was probably half-hearted. He drove in an S-shaped position, as if he had drunk too much, and knocked over a lot of zombies along the way. Wu Shizhu and Chang Su stood in the middle of the road and kept waving, but seeing that the other party didn't intend to stop, it was obvious that they planned to hit them directly. "Yet! You bastard! Brother Chang, are we hiding or not?" Chang Su stammered and didn't answer why, but he moved faster than his mouth, and was already holding her by the collar and was about to run away. Who would have thought that before he took 2 steps, he felt a flower in front of his eyes, and a silver light flashed from the slanted ground, and then Ling Chenmu and Qin Ce both rushed over. Qin Ce pulled the handcuffs and guided Ling Chenmu to align with the direction of the bus coming. The blind stick in Ling Chenmu's hand suddenly stretched out, like a dragon going out to sea. The thunder was so powerful that it instantly shattered the windshield of the bus. The bus suddenly lost its center of gravity and hit the plane tree beside the road. "Don't be stunned." Ling Chenmu restored the blind stick to its normal length and calmly motioned, "Why don't you hurry up and grab the car? Stealing a car, this sister is really a bandit." Nonetheless, Wu Shizhu sincerely praised, "Sister Orange, you cooperated with Executive Qin just now." Ling Chenmu's tone was serious, "Little girl's family is good at learning, don't always say things that shouldn't be said, this is an insult, do you understand?" The bus was forced to stop, Chang Su opened the door with his bare hands, and the 4 of them got into the bus together. Seeing that the players inside were all frantic, and some people wanted to grab the steering wheel. "Can you drive?" The driver covered his bleeding head, and was angry when he heard the words, "Didn't you see that the glass was broken? Someone deliberately robbed our car, and it's fuck. They're here." The other players in the car were sitting in their respective seats, staring at Ling Chenmu and his group vigilantly. No one dared to take the initiative to drive them out of the car, for fear of getting burned. Wu Shizhu looked around and was very impatient, "What are we doing? See how useful we are? Don't hurry up and drive, the zombies will chase after you later." When the driver saw that these 4 people were cold, strong, fierce, and blind, they knew that they couldn't afford it, so they could only swallow their anger. The doors slowly closed and the bus moved forward again. There were still empty seats in the back row, the 4 of them went straight to sit down, and let the surrounding players avoid them like snakes and scorpions, still calm. People are mixed in rivers and lakes, and it is impossible without good psychological quality. Affected by the handcuffs, Qin Ce could only sit next to Ling Chenmu. There was another player to the right of Ling Chenmu, his head leaning against the window and humming, looking like he was about to collapse. A bit anomalous. His gaze moved down coldly, looking at the man carefully. Until he saw the half-circle of black and purple teeth marks on the other's arm, revealing the half-circle of black and purple teeth marks beyond the sleeves of the sweater. In the next second, the player suddenly stood up, his eyes were blood red, and he clenched his teeth towards the nearest Ling Chenmu. The male player next to Ling Chenmu was obviously bitten by a zombie. It was exactly 10 minutes since he got in the car. Unfortunately, he mutated. The blue-purple ecchymosis quickly spread from his face, his eyes were blood red, he opened his mouth abruptly, and bit Ling Chenmu. Although Ling Chenmu couldn't see, but her ears were extremely sharp, she immediately picked up her blind cane and placed it right between the other's 2 rows of teeth. Hearing a click, the male player's front teeth were knocked out, and she stood up to avoid it, and pushed Qin Ce by the way. "Can you move a little more quickly? Can you run if I'm bitten?" Qin Ce glanced at her, with a hint of disgust in her indifference, and a hint of impatience in her disgust. "Crap!" After he finished speaking, he walked sideways in front of her, kicked the male player with his teeth and claws back to the spot with 1 foot, and then threw a stick in the face and smashed the opponent's head directly. A few timid girls around saw this scene and screamed loudly in fright, and many older men were also affected by this, and panicked and shouted to get out of the car. It's a pity that no one can get out of the car, because there is more than one mutant player in the car. I only heard a miserable howl, which was issued by the player in charge of driving. Another player sitting in the front row suddenly rushed over without warning and bit his neck viciously. How many potential mutants are there in this car? The driver fell on the steering wheel, and the bus lost control immediately and crashed into the shop on the side of the road, rolling over on the spot. The whole car was scrambled and messed up, but the biting zombie was quite agile, and saw whoever bit someone with a fang, and in an instant, several players in the front row who didn't have time to run away were all gnawed at their flesh and blood. Fly horizontally. From the rules, the harder the zombie bites, the faster the player will mutate. If he is unfortunately bitten to death, he will definitely mutate every minute, and there is no negotiation. So the carriage became a zombie breeding base for a while. Players pushed me, stepped on each other, and scrambled to break the glass on the side to escape, but since the vehicle rolled over, it was inherently inconvenient to move, and no matter who climbed up first, it would always be dragged down by others. Facts have proved that in the face of danger, the selfishness of human nature is fully exposed. Wu Shizhu fell down due to a violent impact just now, his head got stuck in the seat gap, and he was screaming. "Brother Chong! Brother Chong, hurry up and save me!" Because the bus that rolled over was not wide enough, Chong Su struggled to even stand up. He half knelt on the ground and pulled her head out. "The front, everything in front, has changed, we have to hurry up, run." "How do you run? Look at those people, it's like robbing the vegetable market to cut the price of pork. Can we beat them?" Chong Su tried to reason with them. "Everyone, let's unite, line up, one by one, and break the glass first." Wu Shizhu was so angry that he punched him on the chest with a small fist. "You said this is useless? Who can hear? Brother, are you so big just to be a mascot?" At this time, the few players in the front row who had left the whole corpse mutated one after another, twisting their limbs and bouncing up, and began to bite people in a relay. The carriage vibrated and swayed wildly, and the space was so large that the players in the front were unavoidable, and they all fell into the trap. The group of 4 is in the back row, and the zombies haven't bitten yet, but it is estimated that it is almost the same. Wu Shizhu said anxiously, "Sister Orange, Executive Qin, think about your ideas." "Thinking of what?" "For these 2, force can solve all problems." It was too late to say it, so Ling Chenmu erected his blind cane and stepped forward immediately. Wow! The glass of the carriage closest to her shattered, and at the same time, she almost missed the heads of several players who were in the way. "I'm sorry." She apologized carelessly, "I'm blind and can't see anyone." Qin Ce grabbed the collar and stuffed the group of players into the shattered glass one by one. The movements were fast, simple and rude, like stuffing ducks with their feathers in the oven. Finally breathing fresh air, the surviving players ran away with blood on their heads and tears on their faces. Chong Su first helped Wu Shizhu climb out of the window, and deliberately broke off the broken glass on the edge in advance. Don't run around, wait for me to go out." "Okay, Brother Chong." However, it was quite smooth for Wu Shizhu to climb out, but Changsu was too strong and got stuck in the glass. This scene was very embarrassing. If he didn't go out, Qin Ce and Ling Chenmu couldn't go out either. A bunch of mutated zombies in the front row rushed over. So Wu Shizhu stabbed Changsu's neck, Qin Ce made another foot in the back, and just kicked Changsu out of the carriage. The moment Changsu got out, according to Wu Shizhu's description, it was as if a meteorite fell, and it almost killed me with a bang. Qin Ce threw out the backpack left by a certain player with his backhand, and rushed to the front of the front face of the zombie. He propped up his seat and leveraged his strength, leaped out of the car window, and then pinched Ling Chenmu's neck and carried her out of the carriage. Ling Chenmu had just poked the eyes of two zombies 1 second, and the next second she suffered such unfair treatment. Shit, this is so powerful. She propped up one leg and sat by the window, propped up her blind stick like pounding garlic, and smashed the zombies that wanted to climb up. Executive Qin, are you still a person? She said, shouldn't this kind of moment be a lady's priority? You're polite, you will block me directly in the car. Qin Ce asked coldly, why should I be courteous to the thugs? Although this is not good, Ling Chenmu has to admit that his analysis is correct. If there is a chance to kill him, of course it is to kill him. Alas, forget it, since he found out his intention, then look for another opportunity next time. At this moment, she suddenly felt a slight vibration from her wrist, which was a message from the system. It's a pity that Wu Shizhu and Changsu didn't know where they went, no one read for her, and she couldn't see it herself. She reluctantly raised her hand and asked Qin Ce, what did you write? Qin Ce clicked on the dial and glanced at the green prompt box that popped up, the safe area has shrunk, and the bombing of the dangerous area will begin in half an hour. While talking, Wu Shizhu and Changsu returned happily. Sister Orange, there are 2 motorcycles in a shop that sells hot and dry noodles. This system item can really hide it. That's right, let's go. Ling Chenmu said, the system prompts that the safe area will shrink in half an hour, and we have to withdraw. Wu Shizhu looked down at her watch, and couldn't help but be surprised, damn, really? Ours is still a dangerous area, isn't it a zombie fight, and a drug? Their current location is in the red center of the map. It is roughly estimated that there is barely enough time to ride a motorcycle to a safe area. However, when Wu Shizhu led the way and found the 2 motorcycles hidden in the noodle shop, Changsu was carrying her naturally. Needless to say, Qin Ce and Ling Chenmu had a disagreement. Qin Ce patted the handlebars of the motorcycle and said in a deep voice, you squat in front. Are you ordering me? Ling Chenmu was displeased, I squatted in front of you, rounding it up is equivalent to being hugged by you. It looks like I'm a mother? I'll sit in the back. When you were clamoring to give priority to ladies just now, did you ever think that you are a mother too? Relieve your anger, stop arguing with the 2 bosses, you are not mothers. Wu Shizhu persuaded seriously, Brother Chang is the most mother in our team. Changsu. Wu Shizhu whispered quietly to Ling Chenmu again, Sister Cheng, if you sit in the back, you 2 are handcuffed together. If he wants to control the direction, you have to stretch your hand forward, isn't that the same as hugging him? Ling Chenmu gritted his teeth secretly. To hug Qin Ce or to be hugged by Qin Ce, this is a question worth thinking about. The handcuffs between her wrists screeched loudly, and she squeezed her blind stick into her arms with strength with both hands, and then squatted down on the pedals of the motorcycle with a blank expression. Active and passive, she chose the latter. Let her take the initiative to hug Qin Ce, what about a dream? The 2 motorcycles drove side by side, crossed the messy streets, and quickly rushed to the safe area according to the system map. Along the way, Qin Ce drove at a fast speed and took a difficult position. He didn't know how many zombies' interception attacks he avoided. And Ling Chenmu was squatting on the front pedal, calm, as if she was about to become a fairy. Qin Ce lowered his eyes indifferently, if you are still alive, don't pretend to be dead. Ling Chenmu repeated his previous lines, seeing that you are in high spirits, I am afraid that it will affect your ability to play alone." Before he finished speaking, Qin Ce ran over a big hole in the road ahead, and the motorcycle jolted up, almost throwing Ling Chenmu out of the side. It is conceivable that if she is really thrown away, she will still have a handcuff on one hand, and she will have to be dragged and slid by him later. But is Ling Chenmu easy to provoke? Of course she is not. Her reaction speed was top-notch, and she immediately supported her body on his arm with her other hand to stabilize her body. At the same time, her nails moved down, leaving 5 clear blood marks on the back of his hand. This last action is purely for revenge. The other uncle and lowly group did not notice the surging tide here, and were still enjoying the thrill of slashing zombies while driving fast. "Brother Chong, are you almost there?" "It should be, coming soon, Executive Qin, let's go." Qin Ce said calmly, "Go to the steel factory." By accident, the map showed that a very obvious landmark building on the edge of the safe area turned out to be the steel factory they had discussed before. "Receive." Chang Su was deeply ashamed of his speed of speech. 5 minutes later, the steel factory arrived. It's a pity that the main entrance of the factory was locked from the inside. Obviously, some players took this place as a base in advance, and they came a step late. Wu Shizhu was in a hurry, when he turned around inadvertently, and saw the scratches on the back of Qin Ce's hand, he couldn't help but be surprised. "Executive Qin! What's the matter with you?" Qin Ce's handsome face was as cold as ice, it was scratched by a dog. Ling Cheng rolled his eyes at him. Although she was covered with a tie, no one could see her eyes, but the murderous aura was real, which made Wu Shizhu beside him shudder. Peace makes money, peace makes money." Wu Shizhu quickly changed the subject, "Let's study it, this door is locked, where do you get in?" Ling Chenmu answered as a matter of course, "Look for a window, remove the window if there is one, or remove the door if there is no window." In the eyes of this sister, everything in the world can be dismantled. Chang Su rode a motorcycle, circled the factory, and returned to the place after a while, stammering and reporting. Behind, there's a window that's been nailed down. It's okay." Wu Shizhu waved his little hand, "For Sister Orange, it's no different from pasting with newspaper." The 4 of them came to the back of the factory and saw that there were several layers of small containers scattered there. When they climbed up, they could reach the nailed window on the 3rd floor. On the top container, a ladder is placed horizontally, and those who climb up can put the ladder down to pick up other teammates. After more than 10 seconds of unusually sloppy discussions, everyone agreed that Chang Su could take on this important task because he was the oldest and tallest, and at first glance, he was a person who was very good at climbing containers. Chang Su didn't speak well, so he could only tacitly assume that they were right. But then again, in fact, the level of training in the violent block system in the early years was not fake, and it was not difficult for him to climb. It took him less than 2 minutes to successfully climb to the top of the container and put the ladder down. He also bought a backpack from the supermarket before. Unlike Wu Shizhu, which was all snacks, he had nothing but a few bags of bread and water, and the rest were pliers, wrenches, hammers, and other tools. He squatted there and began to pry the wooden boards nailed to the window, with such a serious expression that anyone who looked at it would inevitably give a thumbs up and say professionally. He was so efficient that by the time the other 3 came to meet, the last 2 pieces of the plank were left to cross. Qin Ce weighed the swing stick in the palm of his hand, and suddenly backhanded, only to hear a crisp click, and the wooden board cracked from the center. Ling Chenmu listened to the sound next to her, and resolutely made up another blind stick. This time, the wooden board was completely knocked off, revealing the window leading to the inside of the factory. Wu Shizhu leaned over curiously and glanced inside. She was suddenly stunned. Depend on. The author has something to say. Chang Su, a combat player born in the violent block system, is actually the most kind, weak and helpless joker in the team, alas. After Wu Shizhu expressed a strange emotion, out of curiosity, Chang Su also looked into the window. I didn't know the result, I was startled when I saw it. Hey, what is this? The lights in the factory are on, and although dim, they can fully illuminate what is happening. A group of men and women in strange clothes and with obvious non-mainstream features, wielding all kinds of weapons found in the factory, are collectively dissecting a zombie. The blonde man in the lead is carrying a buzzing electric saw, still humming. The zombie's limbs were cut off, its head rolled to the side, and its rotten intestines flowed all over the floor. Not only that, but there was another zombie lying in the corner. It must have just mutated and was bound by an iron chain, struggling. What kind of disgusting entertainment is this? How about a party? But compared to Chang Su and Wu Shizhu's surprise, Ling Chenmu's focus was obviously not here. She listened carefully. It's the sound of a chainsaw, good stuff. Having a chainsaw means that the handcuffs may be cut open. Sister Orange, there are quite a lot of them. Wu Shizhu reminded in a low voice, they even bring guys with them. I don't want their dick, I want a chainsaw. Okay, what is the reason for the crisis to tell this sister? It is useless, people can easily take the head of the enemy from a distance of 100 meters, who is the generation of blind warriors afraid of? Wu Shizhu kept silent. The four of them lowered the ladder down the window frame again and climbed toward the factory floor one by one. At this time, the group of people in the factory were planning to dissect another zombie for fun, and someone accidentally raised their head and saw their figures. Fuck, who is that sneaky? When Wu Shizhu was frightened, he loosened his hand, and smashed Chang Su down along the way. Chang Su used her as a meat pad, and the two of them fell all over the place together. Hearing the light clap of the handcuffs, Qin Si and Ling Chenmu also landed one after another. The two groups of people stood there with big eyes and small eyes, only Ling Chenmu seemed the most calm, because she could not see, the blonde man with the chainsaw has a Drake voice, and his speech is full of quack quality. He raised his eyebrows and said, hey, we nailed the windows, and there are still people who can come in, and they have some skills. Given that Qin Si was too lazy to speak, and Chang Su was not good at speaking, Ling Chenmu would beat up whenever he spoke, so the task of the team of diplomats fell to Wu Shizhu. After all, this is also a public area in the game. If you can use it, we can also use it, she said. It's such a big place, isn't it good for everyone to live together peacefully? Be accommodating, brother. Another male player with dyed green hair smiled and said, just be accommodating? Okay, so you have to show some signs, right? What do you want to express? Looking at how cute you are, why don't you play with your brothers? Wu Shizhu was so angry that her pigtails turned to the sky, and immediately rolled up her sleeves and was about to scold her, but this time Chang Su reacted faster than her. Ask me, do you have an opinion? This sentence is broken, very loud, not like a stammer, but it adds a bit of deterrence. The green-haired man was not wrong at all, and immediately choked back, how old are you? Who is she calling out here? Chang Su glanced at Wu Shizhu and said confidently, I'm her father. As soon as these words came out, even Ling Chenmu and Qin Si behind him couldn't help but express their doubts about his IQ. Wu Shizhu was speechless. She lowered her voice and complained, is it not enough to be a brother? You have to be a father? Is it too much? Being a father, it sounds very imposing. Chang Su comforted her, I'm sorry, I didn't think about it carefully, I'll change it next time, next time. He stared at her innocently, like a large dog who admitted his mistake, so that Wu Shizhu couldn't say anything, so he could only secretly pinch him on the arm. This brother's brain is not good, and he is typical of a kind and stupid. How can she bear to have the same knowledge as a stupid? All right. Yes, he's my dad. He's 42 and looks young. What's the matter? The green-haired man sneered, what happened to your dad? Your dad has to be obedient on our site. If you want to stay here to hide from the zombies, is it possible without paying a price? At this time, there was a male player with white hair and blue contact lenses, who looked like a husky, and opened his mouth very greasy behind. Tisk tisk, if you don't have good eyesight, the blind woman in the back is obviously in better shape. The blind man covers half of her face. Who knows what she really looks like, in case she is disfigured. You see that your face has a fart? It's cool to use. The two were in a whispering posture, the volume was about the same as shouting into the loudspeaker, for fear that others would not hear. Ling Chenmu's slender fingers, turning in circles, slowly rubbed the top of the blind stick. This was a precursor to her accumulating strength, and basically someone would suffer soon. She spoke the most condescending words in the most gentle and deceiving tone. Shut up first, I'll talk nonsense later. Who has a chainsaw? Lend me to use it. The blond man wondered, chainsaw? What do you want a chainsaw for? Of course there is something to saw. Saw what? Do you believe me when I say cut your head? The blond man was choked for a moment, but instead of anger he laughed. Interesting, this blind man has a wild temper, I like it. The group of stinky hooligans around, gossip, I don't know if you are so wild when you take off your clothes. Ha 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 ha. Hearing the soft sound of Keng Clang, Ling Chenmu twisted both hands, and the sharp blade at the top of the blind stick popped out. She said slowly, since you refuse to borrow it, I can only grab it. The group of people didn't care at all, they all looked funny, and one of them was a scalding girl who had a hot head, a lip piercing and a lip stud, and was still sneering. Please, eldest sister, if you put a spring in the blind stick, you will consider yourself a future female warrior? You have to be supported by others when you walk. Can you not make us laugh? Ling Chenmu nodded, oh. In the next second, the suddenly stretched blind stick burst into a flash of silver light like lightning, hitting the opponent directly in the chest. At the same time that the girl who killed Matt was knocked into the air, the blind stick turned its direction halfway, and swiped it on the heads of the green-haired man and the husky man one after another. Her original target was the blonde man, but unfortunately these two were in the middle, so they were unlucky. It was also fortunate that she had used her strength, otherwise her brains would probably have been splashed out. She put away her blind cane and moved closer to the blonde man. Qin Si was by her side, obviously ready to go. The two had no other idea, just to grab the chainsaw, and they didn't want to wait for a second. The chainsaw grabbed it, saw off the damned handcuffs, and freedom came. Seeing that the group of people yelled and was about to come to fight with the guy, Chang Su resolutely assumed the responsibility of covering his teammates, and strode Meteor in front of him. Wu Shizhu waved the two kitchen knives he used to chop zombies. His strength was not necessarily enough, but he had to be strong enough. She shouted at the top of her voice, "Death is not mainstream, your family opened this factory? Did it give you face?" Unexpectedly, the two sides hadn't formally clashed yet. Following her full-fledged shout, there was a sudden loud noise in the distance, the kind of deafening explosion. When the time is up, the system starts bombing the danger zone. There seems to be an invisible barrier between the safe area and the dangerous area. As long as you are in the safe area, even if you are infinitely close to the dangerous area, the player will be safe, otherwise, the player will be buried within the bombing range. A considerable part of this is a test of luck. After all, not all players have a map, and they may not be able to find transportation. Some people are even assigned to the edge of the city at the beginning, and they have no way to escape the dangerous area within the specified time. The cruelty of the hunting system is evident. The abandoned factory was very close to the bombing area. With the explosion, the strong noise suddenly attracted hundreds of zombies within a radius of several hundred meters. On the other hand, gang fights within the factory continued. Chang Su beat a young boy with purple hair and tinfoil hat on the ground. The reason was that he kicked Wu Shizhu just now. Wu Shizhu was beside him, confronting the purple-haired man's girlfriend, the girl who exploded her head and pierced her lips. I advise you not to be shy, kitchen knives don't have eyes, I just don't want to cut people, but that doesn't mean I don't dare to cut people. The lip nail girl held the steel pipe in her hand and spat contemptuously, look at your little arms and legs, what are you bragging about? Did your dad beat me up? Then I'll kill you. Fuck, I really gave you face. Wu Shizhu was instantly furious, come on, come here, whoever kills who might be killed. Here they are playing ruthlessly, over there Ling Chenmu and Qin Ce are vigorous and resolute, and they have completely dealt with the blonde man. Ling Chenmu stepped on the blonde man under his feet, and Qin Ce was studying the chainsaw. It's really disturbing. Ling Chenmu's tone was slow, seemingly communicating, but in fact threatening. I suggest you don't move around casually, lie down quietly for a while, lest the chainsaw suddenly start and cut you into 2 pieces. It's too polluting the environment. Blonde man. He's a real dog. Ling Chenmu's ear is very good, even in such a messy environment, she can still hear the faint roar of zombies coming from the window on the 3rd floor. She raised her voice, Brother Chong. It was rare for her to call him that once, which made Chong Su quite flattered. Why, what's the matter? Climb up and block the window. Chong Su glanced back, it was just taken apart, and now it's retacked, and it's too late. Having said that, he also felt that it was dangerous to keep the window open, so he planned to climb the ladder to have a look. As a result, the purple-haired man who was beaten couldn't afford to lose. Seeing him get up and leave, he was so wicked that he picked up the wrench that fell next to him and followed him through gritted teeth. This stance was clearly a sneak attack. Wu Shizhu noticed something was wrong, and quickly reminded, Brother Chong. Be careful behind. But it turns out that what Chong Su needs to be careful about is not the back, but the front. As soon as he raised his head, he was only stunned for a moment, then turned around decisively and ran back, with his long legs walking in the wind, quickly bypassing the purple-haired man's 100 meter sprint. The purple-haired man hadn't even raised the wrench, so he was confused. Then he felt something smashed heavily in front of him. Is a zombie falling from a window? Soon, more zombies jumped out of the window one after another. Outside the factory gate, there was also a violent crash. There is another batch of zombies waiting to break in. The author has something to say. 59. Crooked? I take you as my brother, but you want to be my father? Attracted by the sound of the bombing, zombies wandering around surrounded the abandoned factory. The running and climbing abilities of this year's zombies are max. When they fall to the ground, their bones will make a snap sound like breaking, but they can still stand up in a difficult twisted posture and charge with extreme viciousness. Purple-haired man. He didn't have time to escape at all. The man was thrown down on the spot. After a while, blood was everywhere, and he was eaten clean. Everyone present witnessed this scene, and the girl with lip nails saw her boyfriend dead without a whole body, and screamed in despair. Ah! The rest of the players ran around, completely losing the ruthlessness of dissecting a single zombie just now. It can be seen that human nature is inherently cowardly, but it is just a question of how high or low it is. With his backhand, Chong Su chopped down a zombie rushing in front of him to the ground. Wu Shizhu immediately jumped up and chopped it with a kitchen knife. Really, it's not bad. Chong Su took her by the collar and retreated, praising him by the way, physical skills are average, but courage is great. Thank you Brother Chong, where are we going now? The gate is blocked too. First, run upstairs. Okay. Compared to the pseudo-father-daughter combination here, the handcuff combination over there is obviously more difficult. The chainsaw was successfully activated, but the special handcuffs of the Time and Space Inspection Bureau were not easily sawed off. Given that Qin Ce operated with one hand, even Ling Chenmu could only stand on the spot with his back straight and dare not act rashly. After all, no one wants to be inattentive and scrap his wrist. The chainsaw buzzed, her wrists were numb, and she heard a commotion not far away, and her patience gradually lost. Executive Chin, can you do it? Are the civil servants in your system so inefficient? Chin Ce responded coldly, it will be more efficient to saw your arm directly. Using lynching of prisoners without trial should be illegal in your Time and Space Supervision Bureau. I advise you to think twice. Your situation can be regarded as assaulting the police and resisting arrest. Ling Chenmu smiled, I'm tortured with you, I resist arrest. The two of them were studying the question of whether to resist arrest, when they heard Wu Shizhu shouting, Sister Orange, Executive Chin, come upstairs. When the zombies finish eating that person, it's time for you. Sure enough, seeing the purple-haired man's corpse, it was almost eaten up, and the zombies targeted here one after another. In addition, several zombies around who were busy chasing other players also turned their heads. I suggest you take 2 steps forward. Ling Chenmu said speechlessly, otherwise, you can make a guess. Later, the zombies will bite your head first or my neck first. Then in the next second, Chin Ce carried the buzzing chainsaw in his left hand, dragged her in his right hand, and strode towards the rusted staircase. She was caught off guard and almost staggered by him. You don't have to be in such a hurry. Crap! At this moment, everyone panicked, shouted, fled, and was busy, too busy to take care of themselves, and no one noticed the woman with lip nails huddled in the corner. The woman with lip nails was obviously greatly stimulated, so she sat there, staring blankly at the corpse of the purple-haired man in the distance. Or maybe not a corpse, but a skeleton. Her face suddenly sank, and even the excessively heavy eye makeup failed to cover the fleeting fierce light in her eyes. She staggered to her feet, paused for a long time, and rushed to the main entrance of the factory at a frantic speed as if she had been wound up. The green-haired man who was hiding inadvertently saw what she was doing, and was so frightened that he shouted her name, howling and scolding. Do you want to die? Get back here! He weighed the two and planned to rush out to stop her, but unfortunately he was not as fast as her and was a step late. The lip-nail girl let out a sinister laugh, and with her hands, she immediately opened the factory door. Then let's die together. Outside the factory, a large number of foraging zombies swarmed in, instantly drowning her. Due to the suicidal activity of the lip-nail girl, the abandoned factory has completely become a paradise for zombies. They finished eating the lip-nail girl, and then the green-haired man who didn't have time to escape, and then went to chase other players scattered everywhere. This Shura field, how a miserable word. The chainsaw in Chin Ce's hand, I don't know how many zombies he saw along the way. He saw it on the left, Ling Chenmu was flying with a blind stick on the right, and the two were like a walking meat grinder. Limbs scattered. When the gang slaughtered, no zombie was spared. Of course, the bosses all go their own way, especially the police bosses and the gang bosses, who are incompatible with each other, each has an idealized course of action, so there have been countless times that Chin Ce turned left, Ling Chenmu turned right, and then at the same time the embarrassing situation of being dragged back to the place by handcuffs. Executive Chin, do you think we didn't die fast enough? You can kill yourself and save me a lot of trouble. In such a fierce scene, the two still have a leisurely mood to ridicule each other, which shows that the excellent mentality is far beyond the reach of others. Until they made a road and smoothly rendezvous with Wu Shizhu and Chang Su on the 3rd floor. At that time, Wu Shizhu was riding on Chang Su's neck, condescendingly holding a kitchen knife to chop up zombies. The combination skills of the fake father and daughter were very cool, so cool that the husky man who was busy escaping for his life suddenly passed by and had to sigh. Fuck, what did you two change? Ling Chenmu just used the blade at the top of the blind stick to cut through a zombie, and nailed the other party to the wall. She held a blind cane in one hand, the other hand straightened to keep a distance from Chin Ce, and let him saw the handcuffs there, it looked like she was doing radio gymnastics. She maintained this posture and analyzed calmly, the downstairs is currently occupied by zombies, and it is not certain how many zombies will follow in a while. It is impossible to go out through the gate. We'd better find the rest of the windows on the third floor and turn around. Tactics: crawl as much as you can. Sister, what you said is very reasonable. Wu Shizhu shouted, but please hurry up with Executive Qin, we won't be able to stand it. Indeed, with the increasing number of zombies, almost all the escape routes in the factory were blocked. At the beginning, those non-mainstream players were exhausted and hit one after another. Now there are only a few more ruthless players left, such as blonde men and husky men. Although the blonde man couldn't beat Ling Chenmu and Qin Ce, he was more than enough to fight zombies, and he became more and more brave. Brother! Come to my side! The husky man held the pole high, and used his voice to make a bold statement, come on! Watch me take care of these grandchildren. Wu Shizhu complained, I didn't expect these two to look stupid. There are indeed two brushes in the fight. Chang Su said, then the score is also compared with. Who is it? Certainly, to compare with the four of us, they can only beat me. While talking, more zombies sensed the traces of their prey and rushed towards this side. No matter how powerful Chang Su was, he was single-handedly, and it was difficult to turn the tide of the battle with Wu Shizhu, who was riding around his neck. He retreated step by step until he reached the edge of the railing. Qin, Executive Qin, if you can't see it again, it should be. Damn it! Before he finished speaking, he only heard a soft click, the flames splashed, and the handcuffs, which had been rubbed by the chainsaw for a long time at high speed, finally moved. When the handcuffs were infinitely close to breaking, Qin Ce and Ling Chenmu suddenly clenched their fingers and tugged in the opposite direction at the same time, and they were pulled apart abruptly. It can be seen that the two people's tolerance for each other has already reached the peak. However, although the handcuffs were sawed off, only the chain in the middle was broken, and the cuff rings were still worn on their respective wrists, which looked like a pair of lovers' bracelets. Needless to say, it's an eyesore. Fortunately, Ling Cheng was blind, she couldn't see. She was in the excitement of regaining her freedom at the moment. The blind stick in her hand was holding a flower, and it instantly rushed towards the zombie group like an arrow from the string. Qin Ce took 2 steps with the chainsaw, thought for a moment, and handed the chainsaw to Chang Su. Suits you. Thanks. Chang Su took the chainsaw in confusion, and then saw that he took out the swinging stick from his waist, and the dark light flickered to swing the head of the zombie. It's so dashing, it looks like he's been handcuffed for a long time and needs to vent. Brother Chang, there is also a window over there. Wu Shizhu patted Chang Su on the shoulder to signal, let's see if we can climb out. Okay. Chang Su just agreed to this sentence, and turned around and had a face-to-face with a certain zombie that rushed forward. He was so startled that he lifted the chainsaw and cut open the other's stomach from the bottom up, and the rotten internal organs flowed all over the floor. Not to mention, this chainsaw is very useful. Wu Shizhu was disgusted. He covered his eyes and held a knife in one hand, trying to chop off the zombie's head, but his strength was limited, and the blade stuck in the zombie's cavity. Brother Chang! My knife! My knife is stuck! Chang Su hurriedly flew up and kicked the zombie a few meters away. The knife, we don't want it anymore, we'll go back, and get a new one. Wu Shizhu was helpless, and subconsciously hugged another kitchen knife. Oh! Double swords have become single swords, and now the combat value is lower. Just like that, the group of 4 slaughtered the entire factory and approached another window on the 3rd floor. The window was not nailed to the wood, but it was sealed with thick iron, and the blonde and the husky took the lead, desperately trying to tear the iron apart. Wu Shizhu just jumped off Chang Su's neck, and when he saw it, he couldn't help reminding, if you two can't tear it apart, give it to us, don't waste time. Stop your nonsense. The blonde man scolded angrily with a drake voice, go back and stay behind. Ling Chenmu, who was next to him, locked the position by the sound, and immediately reached out and pressed his head against the window frame, making a dull sound of bang. "Who's with the chainsaw?" "Saw him first, then the windows." In contrast, the husky man is still knowledgeable about current affairs. Seeing that this group of people is not easy to mess with, he quickly lowers his posture and pleads. "Everyone, my brother is also in a hurry, don't know him in the same way, can you come first? Then get out." "Okay." After the obstacle was cleared, Chang So picked up the chainsaw and began to saw the iron sheet. Those who didn't understand the splashing sparks thought they were doing a terrifying experiment. Qin Ce and Ling Chenmu were standing in the narrow passage, and all the zombies who wanted to rush over either unloaded their heads on the spot, or threw them down the third floor. Since these two bosses were freed from the handcuffs, they have become more imposing. When they go to that stop, they are the gods descending to the earth. They seem to be able to withstand thousands of troops and horses. The blonde man and the husky man were not idle either, grabbing the zombies next to them, and smashing and slashing. The husky man took the time and asked with a smile, "Two, are you still missing teammates? Bind us, we have the courage and strength, and we will be the first to rush in the face of danger. It is an excellent team tank." Qin Ce ignored him, but Ling Chenmu smiled, "Just you? What? Well, it's very dangerous now, you rush up." The husky man bowed his head silently, and continued to smash the zombie's head with a steel pipe, smashing it to pieces. At this time, I heard Wu Shizhu shout in surprise, "Sister Orange, Executive Qin. The window is here." Chang So put down the chainsaw and broke apart the last piece of iron with his bare hands, so the sunlight penetrated into the factory. He took her by the collar and dragged her up first. "There are containers outside, you can step on." Survival instinct made the blonde man rush towards the window with a stride. Who would have thought that he was stopped in the middle by Ling Chenmu's blind stick before he took 2 steps? And the blade that popped out from the top of the blind stick was right across his carotid artery. "Aren't tanks like you walking behind?" Ling Chenmu said, "Then walk behind every time." She motioned Chang So to go first, then used the blind stick to test the position, then jumped up on the ground, turned over in midair, and escaped from the window gracefully. The watch shows that the number of players bound to the hunting system is always decreasing. The competition area is difficult or easy, and the death rate is naturally high and low, but no matter how high or low, as long as the number of survivors is not reduced to 1,000th, the game will continue. At this time, the group of 4 had successfully escaped from the abandoned factory, rode their beloved motorcycle, and headed to a villa in a safe area according to the map. What is the purpose of going to the villa area? Very simple, in order to find a place to take a shower, I changed my clothes by the way. That villa area is also part of the system map and can be used freely by players, so every door is not locked. As a team, incompetent, diplomat, Wu Shizhu chose a house according to his preferences after the big bosses showed a different attitude. It was a small European-style THRESTRE building with bathrooms on each floor. The warm water washed away the dirt and blood, and also washed away the exhaustion all over her body. Wu Shizhu put on the floral shirt and jeans she found in the bedroom closet, and she was full of youth. She even turned around in front of Chang So twice. "Brother Chang, how is my aesthetic?" Chang So was leaning on the sofa and was wiping his face with a towel. He looked at her with a naive, loving father smile. "It's good, cute. Oh, by the way, what about Sister Orange and Executive Qin?" "On the 3rd floor." Ling Chenmu was indeed on the 3rd floor. Don't look at her blindness, in fact, she has a great ability to feel the terrain. She finds the bathroom, turns on the shower, washes her hair and takes a bath. She is familiar with the road, and even washes the blind stick. As for the change of clothes, she just pulled 2 pieces from the wardrobe. I don't know what style and color they are, but they are quite comfortable to wear. She dried her long hair, tied a ponytail at random, and walked out slowly. "Failed kid, give me your backpack." Before she could finish speaking, she bumped into someone at the corner of the corridor. Out of professional instinct, the other party pressed her shoulders and pushed her against the wall in an instant. She immediately stretched her legs and tripped, and the two of them entangled and rolled down the stairs all the way. Going upstairs together, Wu Shizhu and Chang Su, who happened to witness this scene. Miserable or innocent bystanders miserable? That, too, are you tired? Wu Shizhu raised his backpack and asked tentatively, "Would you like to eat something? We can barely count ourselves as our own people, so don't fight infighting, can we live together peacefully?" Ling Chenmu was silent for a moment, put down the hand that was pinching Qin Ci's neck, and got up from the ground. "I just resisted the sneak attack reasonably." Qin Ci looked at her coldly, "Didn't you take the initiative to bump into the attacker's arms? You are a lackey of the Time and Space Supervision Bureau, what is there for me to hit?" Chang Su nervously persuaded, "No, don't quarrel, there is wine in the refrigerator, why don't we drink some? I'm afraid that drinking will stimulate the nerves, and the two will fight even more fiercely, and maybe the villa will be demolished." Wu Shizhu knew this very well, so she hurriedly stopped it, pretended to be surprised, and forcibly changed the subject. "Wow, Executive Qin, I just found out that your clothes are too handsome." Chang Su nodded in agreement, "No, with Miss Ling, like a couple's outfit." Because Qin Ce took off his uniform and changed into a black casual suit with a large dark green embroidery pattern on the top, and Ling Chenmu randomly selected from the wardrobe, which happened to be a dark green t-shirt with a black print. It looks like a handsome man and a beautiful woman are a good match. Coupled with the handcuff rings that the two people's wrists have broken off, it is even more suitable. This is a truth, but it is also a rambling statement, which makes the whole scene even more embarrassing. Wu Shizhu couldn't stop Chang Su from talking nonsense, his scalp was numb, and he almost lifted the floor and got in by himself. Then she heard Ling Chenmu smile and speak gloomily. "Brother Chang is such a good person, it's a pity that he opened his mouth. The author has something to say, simple Brother Chang, stepping on thunder online. The zombie army has not invaded this villa area for the time being, so the group of four took a break from their busy schedules and took a few hours of sleep in their respective bedrooms. When Wu Shizhu woke up, he found that the sun was setting and evening came again. She yawned, bit her bread and walked upstairs, when she accidentally found Ling Chenmu sitting on the rocking chair on the third-floor rooftop with a bottle of cold beer in her hand, silently facing the sunset. The afterglow of the sunset shone on Ling Chenmu's body. Ling Chenmu raised her head slightly, her eyes closed lightly. The silhouette of that scene was beautiful and sad. For a while, for some unknown reason, Wu Shizhu's heart was sour, and he had the urge to cry. The prodigal son at the end of the world, touching the scene and generating love, maybe this is the reason. But the next second failed child, if you stand there sneaking around again, my blind cane will fall on your head. Don't get me wrong. Sister Orange, I'm just passing by. Ling Chenmu turned her head and put the lollipop in the other hand into her mouth. Her beautiful fox eyes swept to this side, the bottom of her eyes was still covered with a layer of fog, and the light and shadow were dark. Really? It's strange to say that, knowing that the other party can't see him, but Wu Shizhu still has an unspeakable sense of oppression. It can be seen that such things as aura and coercion do exist. She was inexplicably guilty and had to try to talk to her. Of course, that, Sister Orange, do you drink alcohol with a lollipop? So creative. Adding wine to a lollipop turns it into a fruity beer. Ling Chenmu leaned back lazily, you can try it if you are interested. Wu Shizhu dared to gossip, you seem to like candy. Sweet food can make you feel good, and your mouth is too busy. You should have something in your mouth. What can I eat without sugar? Smoke cigarettes. Don't big guys have the momentum only when they smoke cigarettes? Smoking is bad for your health. After Ling Chenmu finished saying this, it seemed a bit absurd, as if she shouldn't have answered this way. She smiled self-deprecatingly, raised her head and drank the rest of the wine, then raised her hand and threw the wine bottle down the rooftop. After a while, a crisp cracking sound came from downstairs. "Smoking is bad for your health, is drinking good for you?" Wu Shizhu didn't ask any more questions, she didn't dare to point fingers at people's hobbies and habits. At the same time, in the living room on the first floor, Qin Ce also contained a mint milk lollipop, leaned on the sofa and closed his eyes. Chang Su sat opposite him and finished eating a whole bag of spicy sticks. These two people, one does not like to talk, and the other does not speak well, so the atmosphere is very subtle and awkward. "Qin, Executive Qin." Chang Su tore open a bag of pickled chicken feet again. He finally decided to talk about something to break this weird deadlock, drink or not. "Ice. I have it in the refrigerator, I'll give it to you. Take. Don't drink." "Man. How can you not drink? Drinking helps and enhances feelings." Qin Ce still didn't open his eyes, and his tone was also very light. "The Time and Space Supervision Bureau has regulations quitting smoking and drinking alcohol." "Oh, that. I don't smoke or drink, but I love candy." Chang Su thought. Fortunately, Ling Chenmu didn't hear this, otherwise he would have made another sarcastic remark. "This executive officer is really cold and strange." The leisure time only lasted until 90 o'clock in the evening. When the watch vibrates, the system prompts the safe area to shrink again, and starts bombing the dangerous area after half an hour. Unfortunately, the location of the villa area happens to be the dangerous area. The four quickly left the villa, and this night was destined to be spent on the run. The means of transportation were undoubtedly the two motorcycles, and Ling Chenmu also rode with Qin Ce as usual, but now that the handcuffs were broken, she moved from the front to the back. The night wind whistled, and Wu Shizhu was heard shouting, "Sister Orange, Executive Qin, where should we set the target better? It's useless for you to ask me." Ling Chenmu hugged the blind stick, and even though the motorcycle galloped and bumped, she still sat on a level and stable. "After all, I can't see anywhere." Qin Ce said coldly, "Amusement park." On the map, there is indeed an obvious landmark that is an amusement park, which is easy to identify. Chang Su responded with a sound, and immediately accelerated, moving forward with all his strength. A new test has arrived. This amusement park on the map has a somewhat desolate taste. When the moonlight above it shines, it looks even more bleak and cold, as if shooting a horror movie. The four of them drove the motorcycle directly into the amusement park, and saw that many players also rushed here one after another, most of which came to run poison. The amusement park is relatively empty, and everything is quiet, as if some big storm is brewing. "Should we wait here until the next time the safe area shrinks?" Wu Shizhu asked. "How about we find a pirate ship and sit on it and wait?" Chang Su, "I see you, that is, you want to play. Isn't it forgivable for the little girl to be playful? You dismantled me again. I haven't asked you to settle the account of you being my father yesterday." Suddenly, a loud noise was heard, and there was no doubt that the bombing had begun. Except for Qin Ce, the watches of the other three vibrated at the same time, and the system sent another message. Wu Shizhu looked down, and his face changed suddenly. "What kind of thing is this? Are there any random mini-games?" A total of 8 marked locations in department stores, large supermarkets, 5-star hotels, and amusement parks have all been blocked. Players who are trapped in the marked locations can search for the 4 lost iron keys within the designated area. Players or bound teams who find the iron key can leave by themselves at the main entrance. That is, 8 blocked locations, each with only 4 keys. If you can't find the key, you'll be stuck here until the next bombardment. That basically means a dead end. We must hurry up and find the keys. As if to confirm Wu Shizhu's words, in the originally dimly lit amusement park, the lights were all on in an instant, the rock music was loud, and all the amusement facilities were running automatically. The noisy movement led to the zombies lurking in all corners of the amusement park. They emerged from the dark shadows, opened their rotting mouths, and roared towards the place where there were living people. Wu Shizhu is very satisfied with her current state. She no longer has to go back to the love system to be a female cannon fodder. She has also met a big brother from a violent neighborhood, a beautiful wanted criminal from the dense forest system, and a handsome executive from the Time and Space Supervision Bureau. Although it is inevitable that walking with the boss is tiring, life needs stimulation, and she enjoys it. Carrying her remaining kitchen knife, she first chopped off a zombie's leg, then chopped off the other's head quickly, then rubbed the numb tiger's mouth, and nimbly ran to Chong Su's side. Where are Brother Chong, Sister Orange, and Executive Chin? In view of the fact that there were too many zombies chasing, and considering that her small legs were not running fast enough, Chong Su simply carried her on his shoulders and strode toward the roller coaster. No. I don't know, in the blink of an eye, the two of them are gone. Wu Shizhu suddenly remembered that the watch could show the approximate position of his teammates, and quickly lowered his head. We seem to be going in the wrong direction, Sister Orange is in the east. On the main interface of the watch, the glowing red dot representing Lingchen Mu is slowly moving towards the east. Then, what about Executive Chin? He's not our bound teammate, I can't see it. Chong Su sighed, maybe. I have returned to the Supervision Bureau. After all, the rules are restricted, and Lingchen Mu cannot be arrested temporarily. Chin Ce was forced to stay here by a system bug. Then let's find Sister Orange first. Yes, she can't see it, don't be bullied. Wu Shizhu thought about this question seriously, I think you are overthinking it. At the same time, a large amusement facility, near the meteor pendulum. Miss Lingchen Mu, who looks weak and beautiful and is easily bullied, is wielding her blind stick and killing zombies from all directions. She flicked the blood on the blind stick and listened to the sounds around her, only to realize later that she and Wu Shizhu had been washed away. It just so happened that the system watch did not have a call function, and she couldn't see the location of her teammates, so she could only wait for the other party to come over. But you can't just wait, you have to think about the business. She used her blind stick to explore the path, and continued to walk forward. After a while, she bypassed the meteor pendulum and came not far from the rapids. The torrent bravely entered the large pool full of water, just within her reach. She sat down by the pool and tried the depth of the water. She thought for a moment, raised the blind stick, and twisted the metal round button at the bottom. The metal round buckle rotates once, revealing the hidden magnet inside. She stretched her blind stick again to about 2 meters, and walked around the pool to probe, and she didn't know how long she probed until she heard a soft sound similar to ding. Even in a noisy environment, nothing could escape her ears. There was a zombie leaning halfway behind, staggering and approaching. The blind stick instantly retracted to its normal length, and she turned around like lightning, slashing sharply, accurately severing the zombie's head. Then she calmly stretched out her hand and took off a tightly held iron key from the magnet. Having tools is really convenient. A couple who happened to pass by, saw this scene, and immediately stopped. The girl whispered to the boy, "He's a blind man, there are only 4 keys in total, why don't we?" The boy also agreed, "Okay, let's go." "Where are you going?" Lingchen Mu half smiled, leisurely tore off the blind-folded tie, wiping the blood from the blade of the blind cane. "You too, are you underestimating the hearing of the blind? We will discuss the importance next time. Remember to keep your voice down." Seeing that the plan was discovered, the girl simply stopped covering it up, and only frantically motioned her boyfriend to grab the key with her eyes. Seeing that Lingchen Mu was about to leave, the boy nodded, picked up the fruit knife he carried with him, and followed lightly. In the end, without taking 2 steps, Lingchen Mu stopped and turned around. She asked in a calm tone, "So persistent? The boy was speechless for a while, looked back at his girlfriend, and then looked back at her again. Can't you see? Even if you have the key, you can't find the main entrance. He said, or you can bind us as teammates, you provide the key, we protect you, and we can still benefit from each other. Ling Chenmu's smile deepened, you really want to bind me? Of course it's true. Okay, then bind. Hearing the girl remind, let her hand over the keys first. Ling Chenmu was very kind, spread her fingers and held the key in her palm, waiting for the other party to pick it up. The girl winked at the boy and made a kill gesture at her throat. These two are lying. The boy took the key in Ling Chenmu's palm with one hand, and raised the knife in the other hand, aiming at Ling Chenmu's carotid artery. As soon as he gritted his teeth, even if he wanted to kill someone, who knew that Ling Chenmu had already put his hand back before he took the key. When it was too late, she resolutely grabbed his arm and threw him beautifully over the shoulder, pinning him to the ground. The girl exclaimed, "Lie lie." Ling Chenmu put the key back in his pocket and stepped on the boy's face. She dodged forward, followed the sound to identify the position, and the blade of the blind stick cut through the air with a sharp wind, and the next moment it was placed on the girl's neck. That's why I tell you, don't underestimate the blind man's hearing. She asked slowly, the young couple are in a good relationship? So should I kill you first, or kill your Lai Lai first? The girl knew that she had provoked someone she shouldn't have provoked, and she was immediately frightened. Ling Chenmu said, it's not impossible, show me your backpack. Even if she was at a loss, the girl didn't dare not to obey, so she could only hand over her backpack obediently. Ling Chenmu held a blind cane in her left hand, and turned her right hand in her bag twice, and finally took out a pair of delicate and small brown sunglasses, expressing her satisfaction. These sunglasses are the spiritual compensation you gave me. You're happy? Get out. In this way, Ling Cheng accidentally found the new sunglasses he liked, put them on immediately, and threw away Qin Ci's tie that was used to wipe blood, not to mention disgusted. She walked back along the way she came, and after a while, she vaguely heard footsteps coming from behind her, and she couldn't help frowning. But she quickly recognized that it was not the footsteps just now, but the sound of the standard leather boots of the Time and Space Inspection Bureau stepping on the ground. It was the kind of voice that as long as the most wanted criminals on the blacklist heard it, they would inevitably be shocked. It's the voice she hates the most. She gritted her teeth twice and turned around impatiently. Executive Qin, isn't he dead yet? The author has something to say. Executive Qin, thank you for your invitation, I'm not dead, I can fight you this thug for another 800 rounds.